I'd like to call this Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, October 16th to order. First, we'll be adopting the agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the Committee of the Whole agenda as presented? Councillor Tripp, Councillor Ross. All in favor? Anyone opposed? So carried. Reminder that there is an in-camera meeting directly following the Committee of the Whole meeting. Okay, under the registered petitions and delegations, the first is the Grand Forks Art Gallery Society, introduction of new director curator and quarterly report. Recommendation is Committee of the Whole receives for information the quarterly report from the Grand Forks Art Gallery. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Ross. Councillor. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Mayor Conrad and councillors. I'm bringing with me, I've got the chair, Teresa Rosantoff from our board, and we're also introducing Tim Van Wyk. Am I pronouncing that correctly, Tim?
Van Wyk.
Van Wyk, thank you.
Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. I'm actually retired as of September 30th, but I thought I'd bridge this meeting because I have been sort of presenting the financials and so forth to you, and it will help Tim see what the process is as well. I brought you all a copy of our update, as I usually do. I'm just going to step behind you there, Tim. Super, thank you. And also I brought a PowerPoint presentation, and it's because we formally present our fee-for-service in paper. We also just sort of use this as a time that if you had questions for us about our fee-for-service application for 2017, for 2018, pardon me.
So you're going to test my eyes, right?
I know, and I didn't put it on the screen this time because it's so small on the screen as well. And I'm sorry, I'm remiss, I didn't say good morning to the gallery this morning. So we'll just see if our power is on here. There we go. So we'll see if our, we'll just kind of go through the presentation and let you know what, make sure I'm talking. Is that mic working properly?
Yep.
Yep, thank you. So we'll just go over the highlights for the past year, talk a little bit about our strategic plan, and Tim will speak to that particular piece. We'll do the summary, just lightly touch on our funding request as well, and then time for discussion. So upon moving into the courthouse in 2008, we've obviously been operating under the name Gallery 2 and Heritage Center. We've expanded our mandate and services with the addition of the heritage-related exhibitions and educational programming. And at the request of City Council, the Society also adopted the role of administrating Grand Forks Visitor Center. So we have a balanced representation of local, regional, provincial, and national artists. We have a strong membership base of 385 active members. That's quite a good number for a small gallery as well. When I say small gallery, I mean population-wise, like our centers. We have, of course, our leaf of legacy donor tree and ongoing exhibitions. Paul Crawford, who was our former curator-director, came this summer as well and gave a talk. He was a co-curator for the Syrian exhibition, and I know many of you did come and see that particular exhibition. We were so proud to be able to have this one. It was amazing. Jason Berg, an Indigenous artist from Canada who was residing in New Mexico at the time, came up and did a talk on his exhibition as well. So it's open to everyone. The Boundary Showcase is that spring fling they used to call it. So that's that 2 weeks that we show all regional artists and craftspeople in the Boundary and the surrounding area. And that one's free of charge. Everybody can come in. I think we charge a nominal $2 hanging fee, something like that. And make sure that we've got a place to show regional and local artists, because we do such large external exhibitions as well. It gives them a chance in as well. Studio Watch program provides a venue for our local artists as well. We have our permanent collection. This is what puts us in the category of an art museum rather than just an art gallery, because we carry a permanent collection. And we show that throughout the year as well. The Heritage Gallery downstairs is our static photo display. I'm always amazed, in the summertime particularly, how much the visitors love that quick, go through there and look regionally. by sector, agriculture, mining, the Duke of War heritage, everything's sort of placed out there, but it doesn't infringe on Boundary Museum. And it's a really nice segue for us to be able to then say, now if you want to see, the artifact portion of it, here's where you go up to our Boundary Museum. So it's a really nice bridge for us as well. The East Heritage Gallery, that's our rotating exhibition space. We do 3 exhibitions a year sort of in there when we can. What we have been using that room for as well is a pop-up gallery. That's the one downstairs that we host. The Pearly Pack kids had a big fundraiser in there, which was really successful. We right now have the Art of Breastfeeding in there. So we just try and support some local nonprofits so that they don't have to pay gallery space, they can use the space. Educational programming, the same. We've just this year we're going to take on a liaison with the schools. It's actually a former volunteer or a former summer student we had is now working in the school system as a teacher, and she's going to act as a bit of a liaison for us as well. So that's really nice. Obviously our wine tasting's coming up. Tickets are on sale now, just in case.
You already got them. You got to get them fast.
You got to get them fast. It does sell out. Taps and Tapas in the summer, we had our Taps and Tapas 2. That was our artisanal beer tasting, a successful event as well. We love to have that one outside. It's just 2 years in a row we've been blessed with really good weather, so I'm happy about that. The Visitor Center, we do administer that. It's kind of an unusual blend for an art gallery under their mandate, but we are able to do it because we can do it as we treat it almost like a fundraiser, if you like. It's not that it generates much revenue for us, but it's the foot traffic that allows us to bring people through our gallery, so it's a nice fit that way. But we really have a full service. We're open pretty much 11 and a half months in the visitor center. And I'm amazed also how many people come and use us as a reference point when they're moving to town or when they're thinking of relocating to town. So it's like a whole other service besides just a tourism traffic kind of a deal. It's really worked into this is the first stop where they need information, where to go. So I'm really happy with that. We had travelers from all over the world literally this year. And we got some accidental tourists, I'd like to say. When the roads were closed for the forest fires, people were not able to go to the roads they thought they were going to, so they were diverted through Grand Forks. How lucky for us, because they didn't know about Grand Forks really, certainly didn't know about the gallery. We had so many people literally, and we asked them if they could write to the city and let them know how much we love our town. It's like spread it around. But they were amazed at the caliber of the gallery and the services in the building, plus the building. Absolutely loved it. What else have we got on here? Some more for the visitor center. And we do take reservations also on behalf of the city for the campground in the summer, so that's another little additional service in there. We have our art rental and sales program. This is a fundraiser for us. So we always have fairly large, we've got 50 or more artists now, multiples of their work that we put in businesses, personal homes. It's a really reasonable way to have some art in your home, and it generates some revenue for the artists and generates some revenue for the gallery. So that's a successful program for us. So we've got, as we said, we've got the facility rentals, wine tasting, taps and tapas. We're going to have the Artisan Christmas Fair coming up here in the early part of December. The art rental program. The wine tasting, as we know, it's really a good event. We have about 245, 250 people coming in. We did get our occupancy certificate to make sure this year that we were following along, and we're certified for 330 people in the building, in case you're sort of wondering what our load is. Gift shops is a consignment, and we buy as well retail from artists, pretty much Western Canadian and the Boundary. And we develop, and we totally depend on our local volunteers who assist the staff. So our gift shop is manned by volunteers. They come in and help us hugely to set up for our big Christmas decorating and our wine tasting decorating, which is kind of a highlight for us in the year. And just whatever needs doing throughout the year, and I expect I'll be going back in a volunteer capacity as well. Grants for the public gallery for art programming. Gallery 2 receives funding from the British Columbia Arts Council, British Columbia Gaming, Canada Heritage, Canada Council for the Arts. And as I've said before, these are very specific grants, so this is not operating money, other than the gaming. The gaming money allows us to use some per gate for operations, but it must be to do with the programming, the gallery programming. So now in our new world, the world is able to follow us through the website and social media, Twitter accounts, we have newsletters. We continue to serve the community, providing meeting spaces for the BC Assessment Authority, Downtown Business Association, Phoenix Manor. Richard Canning has his satellite office there, and the Boundary Visual Artists meet there as well. We provide employment year-round for 5 people in a combination of full and part-time as the budgeting allows, and plus we have summer students hired through provincial and federal placement programs. And our volunteers, of course, continue to be a huge asset. And our board puts in a ton of time and volunteer as well. So there's all of us on the left, and there's our new person sitting beside me. Tim comes to us from Calgary, but is a Salmo boy, so knows our regional aspects of how we deal with things. I'll kind of turn it over for Tim just to add a little bit on our strategic plan, what we're about.
First of all, it's nice to meet everyone. I'm thrilled to be here in Grand Forks and at the gallery. I'd really like to thank Terry for her stewardship of the gallery over these past couple of years. It's really a top-notch institution, and it's great to be coming into some stable financial and stable curatorial vision. Ted Fogg as well, who's not here today, has just done an amazing job of programming for such a small institution. It's really appealing to come in and be able to build on that vision. Really, I'm not coming in to seek to broaden the base of gallery users, continue providing top-notch exhibitions, both regionally and nationally, and really building on community programs, seeing the gallery as a resource for all residents of Grand Forks and the surrounding area. We're coming to the end of the strategic plan, and so in the coming months, in conjunction with the board and staff, we're going to be checking in with that plan. Really, it's more of a check-in to ensure that we're continuing to meet our mission and mandate and how best to continue in the future. The previous goals of the strategic plan are to advance exhibition programming, increase community engagement, and enhance financial stability. And to my mind, those are going to be valid and guiding principles for a long time to come. The planning process is really about how best to empower gallery staff and community stakeholders to deliver on the mission and mandate. The gallery is on a solid financial foundation now, and we certainly thank the city for its support. That's great to have core municipal support to run the back end of things, and to provide the backdrop to do the exhibition and community programming. Really, the intent is to continue building organizational resiliency and strengthen our community connections.
I think we'll just go over the financial statement I brought in. Tim was just mentioning all of these, and I'm sorry I didn't advance them as he was speaking. But I think we didn't even need to read it. Thank you for your words, Tim. That's really excellent. So on the revenue side, on our financial overview, the City of Grand Forks, of course, is our core operational funder. We do receive provincial and federal grants. We have earned revenues through our gift shop and our different fundraising activities, including the garden tour. We have donations, memberships, and on the expense side, it's the wages, obviously. It's exhibition programming costs, administration costs, and the facility operating costs. So our revenue sources sort of look like this if we were grouping them in clusters, where the city would, as you see, provide slightly under half of our core funding. Wages, about 50%, which would be normal. Pretty normal for an operation that size. We actually keep it pretty tight. For a 2-floor operation, including the visitor center, we're right at the minimum sort of threshold that we need to keep the building operating and have 2 people in the building during open hours for safety and get our work done. Jim spoke about this particular one. I'm just going to, before we go into questions, just quickly review the expenses and the operating budget revenue. So we're right around where I expect to be. As usual, our fundraising seems a bit lower right now. The largest fundraiser, the wine tasting, is just coming on now, so you'll see in the October-November report, and then pop right up again. But we're right where I'm hoping that we would be, where I budgeted for. Our annual gross revenue for this month is about, we're running about 5,000 over budget on the revenue side and a little bit under on the expense side. So once again, really good, and that's the second year running that we've had a nice tight handle on our budget, as Tim was saying. So just before questions too, I'd like to personally thank the Mayor Conrad and council members and staff for your support of me during this last 2 years that went by. Wish like so fast I can't believe it. But it was really important for me to be able to get the gallery on stable footing, which it's not that it wasn't before, but it's just that we have such an amount of work to do there to still be able to provide for the schools, to be able to provide for our own population as well as our visitors, and keep it free of charge. Our whole deal is inclusivity. Like, we want everybody, no matter what your economic or whatever your thought process is, to be able to come in and be comfortable coming in. So that's been a really good, prideful thing for me. I feel that we have the support of the city. I hear back, that you've recommended us as well for visitors to come through and see. I love that. And personally, I just want to thank you for your support for me. Now, any questions about any of that?
Councilor Tripp.
Thank you, Mayor Conrad. Yeah, thank you for such a great report. It's wonderful, and the art gallery does such terrific work in the community, and just love your programs, although I don't attend some. But I just had one question on your financials here. And I'm sure it's explainable by what I'm seeing, but just to check, the gift shop purchases and retail is going up from 10 to 25,000 as expenses, but then I see on the other side you've got another amount, a higher amount coming in from the gift shop under earned revenue. So I'm assuming that you're thinking that as you bring more stuff into the gift shop and expand what's going on there, you're also going to increase your revenue sales and make a tidy profit.
Thanks, that's a good question. I think I was speaking maybe a couple of meetings ago about how the gift shop operates, and it's a little tricky to put it down on paper. Pardon me. We run half retail and we run half commission. So that expense side is sort of the retail side with a bit of commission. We never know for sure what that commission is going to be. It just depends on what the uptake is on the particular artist that we're holding in the consignment at the time. But it's a fairly good pattern. So you'll see we're always going to have the expense side, at A, and then B is going to have a lift on it because we expect it to generate a revenue. Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Crowder.
Yeah. Also a question on the financials. Under earned revenue, there was beer and wine sales of $1,500, and then there was $15,000 in fundraising events, and then when we go over to expenses, it shows wine and beer expenses re-fundraisers was $1,500. Is that the same? So or are those wine and beer expensive just neutral? Are they, because anybody that ends up selling alcohol, it's usually at a profit, not just a...
Thanks, Neil. When you see that little separate beer and wine sales out of there, that typically is just representing if we are taking a license out to sell beer and wine neutral, fairly neutral, at our openings.
Okay.
So that's just that, not including in, sort of our taps and tapas fundraisers. That's
Yeah.
set aside. So you'll see, and I apologize, that very first column you see on the left, I should remind you that's our previous budget. And then the second column is the approved budget for this year, and then each accounting all the way across. So for instance, on this year, the beer and wine sales, you'll see that the approved budget is 0. We really had no particular care to have that as a expense or a revenue maker, because that is just our openings. And then when you go down to fundraisers, then that's captured in there. So $25,000 is our approved budget for this year for fundraising. And then you'll see all the way across, we're tracking about $8,500 right now, and as I say, that will bump right up with the wine tasting to around budget. So we've increased the budget this year for fundraising to 25 from 15 last year. Okay?
Do we have any other questions? Councillor Hammond and Councillor Butler.
Yeah, thanks, Terry. I just want to thank you for an amazing report and all the work you've done. I think the gallery's come a long way. It's always been an icon in the community, but I think it's just that much better now. I do notice that your facility rentals, you're projecting that they're going to be down by 2/3 for 2018. And also, your grant from the Boundary Arts Council is no longer. So I'm just curious about that.
Thanks. On the, I'll do the Boundary Arts Council one first. We find that they have a very, very limited budget. It's a very small budget. As a sort of a partner or sister type of an organization, we would rather not attempt to take some money away from some of the other very small organizations that need the funds. So we've made a critical decision to just not apply for that particular money, to go right through their parent organization, the BC Arts Council. So rather than try and take some funds away from perhaps a dance troupe or someone that really doesn't have a lot of access to funds. So that was on purpose. And so, Chris, what was the first one?
Facility rentals.
Yes. So facility rentals, it becomes a real kind of an issue for us. We have a facility rental policy, a really good one. In the past, we used to do some larger facility rentals, but our volunteer core group catered them, and that sort of went by aged out, literally, where we just don't have that capability anymore. So people are less and less wanting to come when they have to hire their own caterer. So we'll see that drop down. So we've made allowances for that and then put in the facility rental literally what our bare bones meeting kind of revenue is. If we did another, if we got a wedding or if we had a large event, if people wanted to absolutely be over budget, how great would that be? But we're not planning for any of that because it is very tough. And then depending on what we have hanging in the gallery, we can't always offer the upstairs gallery, which is where everybody would like to be. Right. But quite often we have installations that we cannot move in and out, or fabric or textiles that we can't have the cooking odors or so forth. So there's those kind of things that we have to take into account as well. Thank you.
Councillor Butler.
I just wanted to say thank you as well, Terry. You've done an amazing job over the last couple of years, and I'm really sad to see you go. I've always just trusted that everything's working well there because I know that you're fully capable in what you do. And I just really hope that your hours invested in the community will continue to be as high as they are now, and whatever organization gets you in the future, they're very lucky. Thank you.
Thanks, Shirley. As a matter of fact, I'm planning on rejoining the board for the art gallery, so I'll continue from a volunteer aspect supporting it. It's a passion of mine, so it'll be still good to see everybody probably. I also, of course, was involved in the fee-for-service. So we've requested, as you know, in writing a longer fee-for-service this year. We've exercised the option that is in our contract to be able to speak to a 5-year fee-for-service rather than a year-by-year. So what we thought was a fair and equitable situation there, and we've asked for a 5-year, but with a 3-year cost of living 2% increase over the first year, second year, third year, and then the last 2 years up for discussion. Who knows what's going to be happening by that time. So, yep, Chris.
Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thank you, Terry, for your years of service, and welcome, Tim. Look forward to hearing from you over the next few years. So, welcome to Grand Forks. I hope you enjoy your stay here.
Thank you very much. It is truly great to be here. I'm really looking forward to it. It's been really welcoming. Everyone's been really interested. And if you have any questions or concerns, just over there. So don't be a stranger.
So do we have any other questions or concerns? Hearing none. Thank you, Terry and Tim, for your presentation. And I will now call the question. All those in favor for receipt? Anyone opposed? So carried. Thank you again. Okay, moving on to our other petitions and delegations. The next one is the Boundary Museum Society, the quarterly report. Recommendation is Committee of the Whole receipt for the quarterly report from the Boundary Museum Society. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Ross. Good morning and welcome.
Press the top.
Okay. You got to catch it harder because it's
Yeah, you got it.
in. There we are, okay. Okay, my name is Lee Grausa. I'm the president of the Boundary Museum. I'm with Mayor Conrad, councilors, staff, and people of the gallery. We're here today to give our third quarterly report. And I would like to introduce first Shannon Profili. She is taking over for Cher, which is on medical leave right at the moment. So welcome to Shannon. She's done a good job up to now, and I'm sure she's going to continue. So, okay, the mandate, of course, of the Boundary Museum Society is to collect, research, exhibit, and use for educational purposes artifacts, archives, and photographs relating to human and natural history of Grand Forks and boundary area. Our statistics for, pardon me, am I watching that?
Just wondering if I should maybe advance it for you, a cover to
It's,
that.
it's not on a slide, so maybe you can just tell me to advance it.
Oh, yes, that would
Yeah,
be great, thank
sure.
you.
Oh, okay.
That's okay, just.
Okay, and from January to September of 2016, we had 38 visitors that we have recorded. And in this period for 2017, we had 2889, an increase of 1.18%. Over the summer, the Boundary Museum has been very busy with a steady influx of visitors and community events. Our summer students, we were able to get 3 of them, and 1 or 2 from Canada Summer Jobs and 1 from Young Canadian Works, or Canada Works, sorry. Unfortunately, we have them for a shorter period of time. We don't get them for as long as we used to. It used to be 12 weeks, now it's 9, so it cuts into, we have to do a little bit more. So summer student Anton took on the preparation of firing up the bread oven every Thursday morning at 7 a.m. The dough goes in the oven from 11 to 11:30 and is ready by noon. All visitors get a taste of the delicious bread when it comes out of the oven with homemade jams. So, and that's why our Thursdays, are very popular at the museum. Anton has also updated some information on the Boundary Museum Society website. He and Ben worked alternate days, giving tours at the Flower Mill Tuesday to Friday every week. Ben, in turn, also did summer maintenance at the museum and assisted in giving tours. Talena gave tours, helped with the never-ending job of accessioning our backlog of artifacts, and put the museum on Instagram. We were very grateful to have these marvelous students. They did a lot of work and they were very personable, and we really enjoyed them. And we are planning to submit monthly articles now in the Gazette, because we want to get our marketing and more visitors up to the museum. So we're going to put that on a feature as a monthly event. So events that we have done over the year, or for this last 3 months, they included picnics in our shade house for many different groups. We had an AABC workshop, and also Les Johnson put on a weekly press workshops every week for, was it the summer?
In spring and the summer.
Spring and summer? Okay. We had a grad reunion, teacher and schools visits, a reception and barbecue for the Canada 150 Air Show celebration, a 2-day event put on by the Grand Forks Amateur Radio Club, a fundraiser concert for the people affected by the fires, and a wedding. In September, we partnered with Kettle Valley Food Co-op and put on the Harvest Fest.
and over 700 people attended this year. It was the grounds were full, right from 9 till 5 actually. So it was really a good event. And we can boast of having this one-of-a-kind area in all of Grand Forks, especially with our picnic shade house. So we already have a Railway Blues and Bluegrass Festival and a wedding scheduled for 2018, and also another wedding for 2019. So we're good on those weddings. The ground looks very impressive with acres of fresh mowed green grass and many flowers, thanks to our very meticulous groundskeeper. We are very proud of our venue and welcome the mayor, councilors, and city staff to visit at us anytime. Our main focus for August and September, we're completing 3 major grant applications. The grants are to establish funding for our 20 by 40 or 60 by 40 extension on the Black Livery building, so we can expand our displays and feature 4 fire trucks, the antique ones, and equipment belonging to the Grand Forks Fire Department. We are waiting for the connection of telephone, internet, and security cables to be installed so we can open the building to the public. With the opening of the building, we will also need additional staffing. In summary, you will note after much deliberation, we requested a $10,000 increase in funding. I know that is an awful lot, but right now we are expanding. We do need another employee, and because we've only got Cher as an employee right at the moment, and Joan she does the Indigenous program at the schools. And we find we really need more. Cher cannot do, or now as Shannon is taking her place, they cannot do the job just on their own. Because between touring, giving the visitors a tour, and doing everything else with paperwork, and now with the grants that we're applying for, it's getting very, very, just, one person can't do it all. So. And the volunteers, there's a few that do come in, but they can't do the work that the manager does. So. Anyway, we feel that the administration by donation has increased our revenue over the traditional method, so we don't have a set price. But in the winter time, we are going to keep the museum open. So I think we are going to think about charging a small fee for the winter time, because we don't, a lot of people do come in, they don't even leave a donation. So we're going to try to get a little bit of revenue to help offset the expenses for the winter. So in 2009, we signed our first contract with a corporation in the city of Grand Forks. 9 years later, we are experiencing a healthy growth with our delivery of community programs as part of the living history of the region. In this time, we have developed 6 very active programs. The use of our outdoor bread oven is a very popular event. Opening the 1915 flour mill as a tourist destination, and promoting the Pride of the Valley flour since 2013. The blacksmith shop provides demonstrations to school children and visitors. The Boundary 4-H Club has been using the Boundary Museum Society grounds throughout the years since 2010. In consultation with School District 51 and their Aboriginal coordinators in the Boundary area, we are entering our 2nd year of presentation to all the schools in our district. Through this partnership, introduced in 2016, we deliver their Indigenous curriculum. We have employed Joan Hart on a seasonal basis to head up this program. She's very good at it. The students really love her stories, and so it's working out really well. With our Doukhobor Elders Living History program, they demonstrate traditional working skills on the loom, spinning wheel, wood turning, fringing, and hand painting of shawls. In the fall, we have the Harvest Festival partnership with the Kettle Valley Food Co-op. Over and above the community programs, we offer venue rentals to the community. The 6-acre facility is a very busy place, and we have reached the point where we need more funding. Since we have started getting funding from the Corporation of the City of Grand Forks, which was 2009, we have never asked for an increase. We've stayed small, but now we've noticed we're getting bigger all the time. We get a lot more visitors. We have a lot more events up there, and so we would really appreciate you considering giving us the money. If we had a 2% increase over the last 9 years that we've been operating, at the moment we would be getting $83,656 in that area. So from 70,000 to 80,000, I know it's a big lump all at once, but we, as I say, we're getting bigger, and we have never asked for any money before. So in closing, the Boundary Museum Society is seeking a recommendation from the City Council at this meeting to receive this quarterly report for the period of, up to the period of September 30th, 2016, under the terms of our fee-for-service agreement. So we hope we get your support. Thank you.
Thank you. So Lady Q, Councillor Hammett first, and Councillor Tripp, and then Councillor Butler.
Yeah, thank you, Lee, for your presentation. I love going up to the museum. I think it's an awesome place, and it's a great benefit for our community so that people can come in and see the history of what Grand Forks is about. I just have some questions regarding your financial reports.
Okay.
In 2017, in February, the financial report showed the City of Grand Forks Operating Fund contributing $70,000. Yet in this year, you've got it as a line item showing $50,000. So just curious as to what exactly it is that you're asking for this year. And secondly, your increase of $10,000.
That was an error right there.
So that should read 70 or
Yes,
80?
No, right now, up to in 2017,
Yes,
we are getting 70.
exactly.
And for 2018, in our new fee-for-service, we are asking for that's when we're asking for the increase.
So my next question is, the regional district is your next largest contributor to support this museum, and they come in annually at $25,000.
That's both of them, yes.
So I'm just curious, have you presented to the RDKB and have you asked them for additional funds, seeing that there's such an off balance between what the city contributes and the regional district contributes to this?
Yes, we have, but the regional district gives us grants, like we benefit from the tax grant. But none of that is going to operating. We can only get grant money from them for projects and stuff, but we cannot do anything for operating with that. If we did have, we used to get $10,000 from Area C, but we only get $5,000 now. They dropped it by 5, and so the other 20,000 we get from Area D, and as I say, we also get grants from them, like the gas tax grant, and if we also need to buy any small item that we can't afford, like a computer or something, they have money aside that they can give us as well for that. So that's how we get our money from regional district.
So where would I see this on your financial statement?
Pardon me?
Where would it show, which line item on your revenue for the additional 20,000 in grants and
It's-
Area C, 5,000? Because I don't see that in there.
Well, okay, we haven't got,
It's not, you already turned it operating fund.
It's only
yeah, this is,
25,000.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
but anything else is capital, it's not gonna show, I don't think it would show necessarily.
Yeah, this is
there.
our operating budget, so, but our capital budget is different, and that, we have to give, like, the money we do get extra from regional district goes into our capital revenue, not operating.
So what do you think you get in total from the RDKB, or the regional district?
Last year, we didn't get, we got one grant for 15,000 to complete a project that we were working on. This year, we have not asked for any. Right now, what we're doing, we have to get, when we get money from regional district, there's a timeline that we have to start. So we have got these other grants in, we don't know yet. We'll not know until the end of December whether we're successful. We have to wait, so until then we will ask the regional district for, we are going to be asking them for $50,000. Okay?
Councillor Tripp.
Thank you, Mayor Conrad. Yeah, some of these questions were the same questions that I had, but maybe I could just ask just for a little bit more clarification. This income statement that we're looking at looks to me like it's just for a 9-month period. So I don't know if the city actually gives the full $70,000 in one shot, or have they
No.
also, they've really only given 50,000 at
Yes.
this point. So the number that we're looking at here, 50,000, is in fact what you have in hand
Yes.
for the 9 months.
So we're
Is that right?
Yes, and
Okay.
we should be sometime this month be getting the 20.
You get the other 20,
But
right?
keep in mind, we also have to have, we will not get any more funding until next May.
Right, right. I just wanted some clarification on the figures, just so
Yes.
that we know we're comparing apples to apples, right?
Okay,
I'm
yes.
looking at a budget, I think this came off maybe in September. We were given a budget for 2018, and the numbers here, of course, they wouldn't be up there because that's
Right.
what's happening currently in the
Right.
last 9 months. So your 2018 budget here says that the city of Grand Forks, you've got listed at 70,000, and that's our current funding level for you, is that
Yes.
not right? So you're asking that to go up to 80,000, so for 2018?
Yes, I think that's also on the budget at the, just before the total, additional 10.
Oh, request for additional city
Yes.
funding, yeah, there it is, yeah, thank you, that's great. So I guess my question would be, is there a, I don't know, I'll talk this one through. For RD, KB, C, and D, you said they're just giving you money that is for specific projects.
We do get the $25,000 for operating,
Okay,
okay?
yeah,
But over and above anything, it is for projects. We do not get it to cover any operating expenses.
I see. So then just to clarify, you are not actually going to be asking them for another increase, the same way you were asking us for an
No.
increase?
If we did that, we'd have to go to referendum. And, but as I say, they do help with project grants, and so that we benefit that way from them. So if we get another 50,000, that would bring that up to 70. But that, as I say, nothing goes into operating.
Okay, thank you. Then my final question was, I see for wages and benefits, it looks like you're pretty much on target for what you will, if you've got, what is it down here, 60? Drag my mouse down here. Wages and benefits, you've got, yeah, 61,893. And your total for the budget that I'm looking at for 2018 is 81,000. So that sounds like it's about,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
3/4 of the way through. I'm just wondering, how many staff does that cover?
We just, it's our manager for the Boundary Museum, also Sue Adrian's wages, and she's with the archives.
Okay,
And those are the two major ones.
the two main ones.
Yes, and then we have the groundskeeper, which is minimal.
Right.
And we also have Joan Hartnell, because she is doing the Indigenous program, and she also does tours as well, so,
And that will all be included in that 81,000 for
Yes.
next year.
yes.
Thank you very much.
And we'll have to hire one more, as I say, we'll have to hire. We'll need one all through the year instead of just part of the year, okay? So,
Thank you.
Councillor Butler.
Thanks for your presentation. For the Indigenous program, whereabouts does the funding come from for that? Do you get money from the school district?
no, we do, it's just like a tour that the students come through, like they do go, when they go to the art gallery and
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
Yes, it's part of their curriculum, so because we do have an Indigenous display, they started coming up to the museum, and now we've expanded our display because we do have more artifacts coming in, so, and the kids that they learn that way, and also Joan, she does her storytelling around the Indigenous people, and it's very well received, yes.
So is there any opportunity to receive funding from the school district for the services you provide? And I'm just wondering if you could explain to me your admission rates, how that works.
Our admission rates are by donation.
So there isn't cost
Yes.
at all
and-
for anything ever?
No, and so if people, some people do put $5, some people put 20, but some people don't put any, so it's just a hit and miss, basically, is, so, but in the winter months, as I say, if we do decide to open the museum, which we'd like to, we were thinking of charging a little admission.
Mm-hmm. I think that'd be a good idea.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what are your operating hours for summer and for winter?
Summer is Tuesday to Saturday, and from 10 to 4. And in the winter time, it's Tuesday to Friday, from 10 to 4.
Thanks.
Yes. Next year, we would like to expand it to include Sundays, because we do get quite a few people asking or telling us, we've been up there Sunday and nobody was around. So I think being the museum and in the summertime when it's very busy, we're looking to implement for the summer next year. And one student will be covering that as well. So. Okay. Thank you.
Before Councillor Thompson speaks, I have a question then.
Sure.
A bit of a concern here. You're requesting funding from the city for operating because your operation costs are going to be going up, you stated. So you're requesting another 10,000. You're already at 70 and regional is only 25. Yet again, why are you not requesting from regional? You say it has to go to referendum, but per capita regional is a much bigger area. Yet they're way below half then. So why is there no request being made to regional to increase their funding?
Because as I say, we get grant money from them.
Yeah, but that's not operational.
No, I know that. And so we cannot, well, that's the reason we haven't approached them is because we do over and above, we do get more money. We get almost equivalent from, through the grants and stuff, but we haven't, and as I say, if we do ask for more, it'll go to referendum, which is.
Councillor Thompson, Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to say I took my brother and his wife to the museum when they were up in September, and they were very, very impressed. But we were unable to see some of the outbuildings because Sharon was by herself.
Yes.
And so we weren't able to, view the solar or Bob de Mortelaire's tool shed and the like. So I can certainly appreciate and understand the need for additional personnel.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Butler and Councillor Ryan.
Yeah, I was just thinking, your solar project with the solar panels that you put up, was that a gas tax grant from regional district to do
Yes.
that project? Yeah, so I
Yes.
can definitely see the amount of money that they are contributing in capital.
Yes. Thank you.
Councillor Ryan.
I was up there recently as well with my daughter and her partner, and it is a pretty impressive museum, and it is a benefit to the community. I am a bit disappointed, however, in the budget, because last year when all our fee-for-service groups came in February, or even earlier, asking for their fee-for-service agreements, it was discussed then that the city was tightening its belt because we had a tax increase, and that we were looking at eventually going and doing cutbacks. So we've given heads-up notice to all of our fee-for-service groups that they would have to start becoming more self-sustainable with their revenue. So I know you have a lot of activities going on up there. You're dealing with the school kids, you're running the tours, which I think you should be getting contributions from the school district for. You have venues, meetings, weddings. I've been up there for several functions, and it's a fantastic location. I just want to know what steps have been taken on the part of the museum board to generate more revenue so that you can be more sustainable without having to ask for more fee-for-service money from the city.
Okay, we're trying to restructure for next year. We are going to be holding events for fundraising because we realize that it's like for $10,000 to become out of one pocket. We know that's very hard. But as I said before, if we had received the 2% going into like every year, we didn't ask for any more money, like most places do get a little extra every year.
None of our fee-for-service groups have been increased, though. They haven't been getting the 2%, and they've all been told that they need to start cutting back on their requests.
Okay.
So the fundraising that's the bigger aspect of revenue generating and
Yes.
using that facility. It's an amazing facility, and the potential to earn revenue. I look at it as like we're giving you the seed money to get these things off the ground.
Okay.
And you use that seed money to earn more money back in to increase your bank account.
Yes.
But that,
But we are, we do need another person. If we are going to start doing the fundraising that we require to get, we do need more than two people, more than the one person that we've got in the office. In the summer, we have the 3 summer students, we realize that, but she oversees all 3 of them as well, so her time is put into that. So we do need another employee, then we will be able to get more, more people coming in for like doing fundraising, because one person cannot do it alone.
Can I just say that trying to cover for share, that's 2 jobs that I'm trying to do. I don't have enough hours in a day to cover for what one person does. So I just want to say that.
Councillor Thompson.
So this increase that you're requesting is $10,000. You want to be able to hire another person, and you want to be able to use some of that time to do more fundraising events.
Yes.
Would this $10,000 be a one-time request?
Oh, yes.
So it would go back, it would reduce then in the following year? because you will have all raised funds that are going to generate hopefully more that what you would need for operating.
Well, I haven't thought of that, but if we start getting fundraising and we are getting up to that mark, yes, that could definitely happen, yes.
Councillor Croghan and Councillor Butler.
Yeah, lots of good stuff happening up there. Just to go along with Councillor Hammett's, one of her statements, and as I read through it, it says, in consultation with School District 51 and our Aboriginal coordinators in the boundary, we're entering into our second year of presentations to all the schools in our district. So that means
Yes.
way over
Christina,
there.
wait to,
Yeah,
yes.
1 second, and it says, through this partnership, deliver the Indigenous, and you've employed Joan Hart on a seasonal basis to head up this program. So I see the word partnership and I see the word employed. So the contribution from School District 51,
Okay. Yes, we do get donations from them. We do, after a class comes through, we do get some money from them for doing this, but we don't, like, we haven't got into a contract basis or anything to tell them how much they, but we do get money from them.
okay, is that from the kids coming through as donations?
Sometimes the kids
Yeah.
bring it themselves, or sometimes we do get a check from the school.
Okay, so, because I didn't see it.
Would be under donations.
Yes, that's, yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's just if
It's
you're
under donations.
hiring somebody to give a program to a
Yes.
specific group, then you would figure the group would help offset those costs,
Yes,
right?
okay.
So it's something maybe to have a look at and talk more to the school district and stuff like that, just
Okay.
to see, because everybody's struggling and you need all the money you can get to do the work you do.
Yes.
So, every avenue should be explored. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That was it.
Yeah, I would just concur with Councillor Cog on that. And also, I just did at 200 and 889 people coming through. If you just charge them all $5 each, you'd have more than $10,000. You'd have 14,500. So a small admission, I don't think people would mind paying. It is such a high-class facility. It would be nice to see them contributing for what they're receiving.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
So do we have any other questions? Hearing none, thank you for the
Okay,
presentation.
thank you.
Thank you.
All the question, all those in favor to receive, anyone opposed, so carried. Thank you again. Okay. Item 4, regional topics, seeing as our director, Russell, is not present, we will pass by that one. Then we move on to item 5, which is the presentation from staff. And our first one is 5A, the establishment and in-kind support of a disc golf course from our Manager of Development Engineering Services. The recommendation is that the Committee of the Whole recommends the Council to consider the establishment and the in-kind support of a disc golf course, 2699 16th Avenue, and a funding and stewardship agreement with RDKB Area D Rural Grand Forks at the October 30th, 2017 regular meeting. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Butler.
Yes, sir.
Any questions?
Oh, is there a presentation?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, we're on, perfect. Thank you, Mayor Connor. So I'd like to actually request that Dan McMaster come up. He's got a brief overview here for us about the proposal, and he's the expert on disc golf. So yeah, if you want to come into the front, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Common, and council, and staff, and the gallery. My name is Dan McMaster. I think this presentation fits in nice with the first two wonderful presentations on the arts of Grand Forks, and I'm going to kind of get into the recreation aspect of things. You've probably, I spoke to you a couple of times from the ultimate frisbee side of things. We're kind of the Grand Forks Disc Sport Club. And from the ultimate frisbee side of things, we continue to grow from the little kids and running camps right up to the adults getting extra exercise. We have new people every week. And what I'm going to do is take that hat off a little bit and put on a disc golf hat for you here. And this is a real passion of mine. I think that I want to kind of dip my foot into the waters here a little bit. And today I didn't want to focus as much on any kind of finances, but wanted to, I guess, get the dialogue moving as far as what could be provided in this city, as well as an area, and any other questions that you had. And I think you'll enjoy it. So as my slide is, I have no notes, so you can keep. Sorry, councilors, your heads are going to probably be on a swivel back and forth there a little bit, but we have. There we go. So an established disc golf course. And so the proposal location, as was mentioned in the documents before I came up, is west of Angus McDonald Park. It's an area full of yellow ponderosa pines. Has a walking trail through the middle of it. It is a city property, and that's just a rough area of what you see. It's up south of the Extra Foods store, so you can see it there. That's what I'll be talking about a little bit. Our vision, a disc golf course for all ages and skill levels to enjoy, to convert an underutilized parcel of land into a safe and attractive recreational platform for both the residents of Grand Forks and visitors to come out and learn and to play the game of disc golf. My little, down on the left-hand side there was kind of a bit of an area we had gone. We've actually been playing disc golf there for a couple of years. It turns into, we have a lot of people that come down and really you throw from one area and then you try to hit a tree, and the kids are loving it and whatnot, but I think this has a lot of potential to be something much more professional and much more useful to the community too. So my agenda here, and I'll move my way through it, hopefully dazzle you with lots of colors and bright lights, but why I just wanted to speak as to why disc golf in Grand Forks, why it will be important, what is it, some benefits, and what would be needed. So why disc golf in Grand Forks? Just an overview. There's over 5,900 disc golf courses, all in U.S. and Canada. Very popular. Your local ones here of Roslyn, Fruitvale, Penticton, Kelowna. They've established courses. They're very popular, and then Kamloops is really dominating when it comes to their ability to provide disc golf opportunities. All of them, nearly all of them, are installed by cities and parks departments, or at least with the assistance of cities and parks departments. There are very few recreational activities that offer such a high benefit to cost ratio. There's a lot of benefits here, and the cost is, once established, it is quite low, and it's something I'll talk about. Disc golf has a great, I guess, aura that way too. It's an inexpensive way for people to get out, get some exercise, and have fun. And I just said there that it's a relatively low capital and maintenance cost compared with other recreational installations. It's environmentally sound, play it all year round, even in the snow, enjoyed by beginners and of all ages. I had an opportunity to be involved in the Maple Ridge disc golf course. I started that up, and so Graham says the expert here. I would never call myself an expert, but I definitely am an enthusiast, and established the course in Maple Ridge, and it's a packed house. Maybe location and other factors, but it was a lot of fun doing that. And the moment I moved to Grand Forks, it's actually been a bit of a dream. So. What is it? Very quickly, disc golf is played, and not to get mixed up with ultimate frisbee, but disc golf is like traditional golf. Instead of hitting a ball into the hole, you throw a disc into a supported metal basket. The goal is the same, fewest number of shots. The golf disc is thrown from a tee area and aims for that basket. You progress down a fairway. You make consecutive shots from where your disc, like a ball, would have landed. The trees and the shrubs and the terrain are actually all in play, so there's not a clearing of area where you have, it's very much important to have all that infrastructure, that natural infrastructure out there. They provide challenges and obstacles, and it's a very environmentally sound, because again, we're not having to clear areas right out there. Finally, you put it into the basket and your hole's complete. Who can play? Well, everyone. I guess everybody can play. I mean, it is a really neat opportunity to get the kids and parents and buddies all in as well too. So the disc golf course serves a broader portion of the community than many perhaps of the narrow interest activities that may have higher costs. But the skill and fitness levels required for some of those other sports might be discouraging for individuals, but with disc golf, of course, you have an opportunity to, I think, reach a much broader spectrum of individuals. Men, women, young, old, families, and small children can all play disc golf. So easy to understand and enjoy that no one is really excluded. Players merely match their pace and their capabilities and proceed from there. There's a shameless advertisement for myself, and I'm the one in the bottom right there. That was my hole-in-one in Kelowna, and I thought I'd put up there just to make myself feel important. But yeah, we definitely do a lot. And so a couple of benefits here. I'm sorry there's so many words, but I didn't want to forget anything here. Obviously, from the recreational side, it provides a very inexpensive form of recreation for all people in all age and skill levels. I think it's a wonderful addition to our already recreational infrastructure here in Grand Forks. It has a very close proximity to our 2 elementary schools as well as our high school. I envision the ability for kids to ride their bikes and be able to play disc golf, be it on a weekend or after school, or the ability, of course, for classes to get out there as well. It would give youth in our town a healthy and challenging outlet. Allow members from our disc sports club to organize clinics and camps and put together some youth leagues. And finally, organized family and doubles tournaments. We've already had a few kind of unofficial ones that have been great. We've had a lot of people out and to play around and learn a little bit. And in a lot of other towns, there's tournaments that actually have a fee to play, and then there's prizes and whatnot. And maybe an area we'd like to venture. Right now, it's been very much just getting people interested in the game itself. So. And then benefit of safety, the disc golf course by Angus MacDonald would increase foot traffic at random times during the day, steady in the evenings and weekends for sure. The influx of purposeful visitors would discourage the presence of individuals who are only in the open woodlands to cause mischief. That's true though. There's a lot of areas in all towns that have perhaps people aren't going there because of garbage or individuals loitering around. But when you have purposeful visitors there, that kind of gives it a sense of community stewardship as well too. So areas that are infrequently used, considered unsafe, would be opened up. I say opened up in quotation marks, doesn't mean literally, but an area that's more popular for individuals to go. Decrease in any littering that's there, which has been a problem. Vandalism, because these users have a stake in keeping the course and the surrounding area quite clean and well kept. Conservation, it's a very environmentally friendly sport. Unlike traditional golf, we don't require trees to be cut down, grass to be mowed and watered on a daily basis, plants to be uprooted, or any kind of non-native species to be planted. The land right now is perfect. I mean, there's a few things we'll do there. Fuel loading would be, or sorry, I missed one there. The walking trail that transects the proposed course could be improved. Fuel loading, which is the dead trees and snags and downwoody debris, could be removed. That's always a benefit in the town when you can get rid of that the flammable material. And it's an opportunity to improve perhaps a neglected piece of property. You all have much more experience in that piece of property. I'm not sure what it's been in the past or what you're thinking in the future, but I do know that it's getting the most use from what we're doing with it right now, so it could even expand from there. And finally, the economics of visitors, out-of-town players, they come in. That's a pretty obvious statement, but I'll tell you, there's a large group out there there's a large group of the disc golf world that plans trips and outings and weekends to hit numerous different courses, and of course coming in and Grand Forks, purchasing food, gas, and other services is good. Local establishments advertised on T signs and hopefully a main kiosk, which I'd like to put together. Opportunity for local stores to sell some of the disc golf equipment, not just the discs, but bags and other equipment. And of course, maintenance of the course would be minimal and can be contracted out. Garbage removal, clearing of debris. There's still some specifics there, but I just wanted to show some of the economics that might come from it. And finally, what's needed in establishing this? So you can see my pictures there has the kiosk, kind of a kiosk that my first thought was in the bonfire area there. There's obviously good parking when there's not a bonfire there, but there's good parking for the rest of the year, and a kiosk off to the side. It's information, rules, a map, any kind of advertisement that we'd like to have on there. Kind of gives people a great opportunity to learn about the sport and about the community. So. Really, it's just what is needing and establishing, of course, is these constructions of tees and installation of baskets and some posting of signs. We wouldn't have to cut down any trees, but some branches trimmed up and cleaned up, and actually make the place look really good. Kind of get rid of some of that dead foliage, and it'll turn it into a quote-unquote park. That'll give you an idea of a tee box installation. Each hole would require, on the bottom left is one of my favorite tee boxes there. That's the kind that we did in Maple Ridge. It was lumber around the outside, a frame box. We fill it with crushed gravel and push it down, and then put a non-slipping mat on it. I know a wonderful mill that guarantees from Midway that they will donate the lumber for that, so that's good. The tee boxes themselves are required at each of the holes, so that's one. But once they're in, the maintenance is pretty simple. So, the tee signs themselves, I always think this is very important for every single hole. We get these signs made up. The far left is the one that we did in, or the one that was done up in Kamloops. It gives you an idea. They look classy. They look neat. It gives it a real professional vision to each hole. Far right-hand side, you'll see that there's some caution signs just for anybody coming through. Whenever I play disc golf anywhere in BC and down in Washington, you get so many spectators. They love to sit and watch as they're going for a walkthrough too. So it's a kind of a neat opportunity for the walkers to learn a little bit too. So, and on the signs itself, I think it would be a great idea. I'm kind of reaching out a little bit here, but I think it would be a great idea. Be it a 9-hole course or a 12-hole course, we're still kind of looking at the areas and whatnot, but to have the local establishments on the signs as well. And maybe it's not a huge sponsorship, maybe it's very minimal, but I think it would be great as they walk around that they see places to eat and places to buy their disc and whatnot, because they've come in from the west and they've stopped there and now they move into the town. And so, again, it's not as a huge money maker, but definitely a way to perhaps help pay for the signs. So. And finally, these baskets is whatever, these are the neat things. It's probably the biggest cost, which will eventually be for us as we kind of work things out. Each of these baskets mounted on pipes. These pipes themselves, there's a pipe in the ground, and so the basket itself is able to go into the pipe, and then you lock it with a padlock. And I'd like to do a couple of different anchored pipes around so that the basket can move, not only for variety for the town as they play month after month and year after year, but also to stop traffic in one area, compacting the soil and any kind of erosion issues at all too. So as you can see, the baskets at the bottom, if you've never seen disc golf, that's essentially the hole you're shooting at. So that's a variety there, but that tends to be from our expenses. Those tend to be the things that we'll have to incorporate the most. And so just to wrap up there's a few of us that play on the left-hand side. That's the property itself down on the left. And I appreciate you listening to kind of, again, putting my foot into the water here a little bit. I think it would be a great opportunity, again, in summary, to take a piece of land that maybe is not doing anything right now, but the ability to kind of secure that land for this kind of activity, because from volunteers and opportunities, I guarantee it's going to be a very big success here in the town, something for all ages. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Councillor Hammett, then Councillor Tripp, and Councillor Butt.
Thank you for that excellent presentation. This is pretty exciting, and it's a lot different than what I had envisioned, because I haven't seen any pictures of this before. I have several questions for you. One is, wouldn't it be easier to get the frisbee in the basket if there wasn't a metal pole and a bunch of chains in the way?
That's the opposite.
But getting down to the real questions I have, I see that you're bordering on 68th Avenue and you're crossing over 27th. How do you stop stray frisbees from hitting traffic? That's a safety concern that I just want to have answered. And the other thing is, two others. One is the cost of the installation of all of this to begin with, and who will be looking after the cost and expense of the maintenance of it. Will there be a fee for the user group? Like, will you be charging for the club? I know when the pickleball club came to us to have the pickleball courts, they set out to do fundraising, and we told them that if they raised X number of dollars, come back and show this so that we could see that there was that much interest in the community, then we would put up the balance to finish off the courts and paint them as they needed to be. So I'm just wondering if your members are prepared to chip in or have a club fee or something, and who would be responsible for maintenance and the cost to put the whole thing together.
Thank you, Councillor Hammond. To answer all those questions, you'll have to jump back into a couple there. My brain works one step at a time. So, to answer your question about the roadways, first of all, that's important. We can just close those roads if you want. Even in our kind of our makeshift disc golf we've been playing, the design of the course itself moves tees to baskets in an area where, number one, it doesn't go onto the private property in the south and to the north onto the road. So the design of the course, believe it or not, can keep even the most errant throw from going onto the road. Okay. And we have done that. There's never been an issue. As well, the crossing of the road right through the middle of the property, very much already we have holes ending, and then we cross and start the next hole over there. So
instead of throwing across the road.
Exactly. That's how we designed the whole thing. And you know, safety is number one. And even to the point where the trail that goes through the middle as well, we would avoid, as we design it as well, too, any kind of crossing. So that's an important thing to know. But you mean safety is number one. Last thing I want to do is ever think that here a piece of land like this available for this activity prevents just the average dog walker from going through. I want it to be enhanced for them, not a ducking or anything. So. So yes, so safety number one. Looking at the cost of the course, the financials I'm putting together right now, I mean, there's opportunities for donation, in-kind assistance from the city itself, opportunities from the rural district have expressed some interest in helping out as well too. Again, I probably my next step is to really lay it out. I mean, I know what the costs are all the way through. I'm not coming to you today necessarily asking for a certain dollar amount, but I do know that when we put together the donations and the assistance, we'll be able to put something together quite nicely. And calling it a club too, the Ultimate Club, although is already established about 2 or 3 years now, and we've been able to, we run tournaments which people pay into, we run kids camps which people pay into, and so we're kind of establishing ourselves we're about to establish as a non-profit organization, and so that's why I've kind of put the two together where there's opportunities then for both to become the disc sports all around. A user fee, I would say, only because there is no real disc golf courses out there that ever charge a user fee, unless it's on private land. There's some out there that are on private land and you pay to play kind of thing. There wouldn't be a user fee, and I wouldn't want any kind of kids or just they show up, they should be able to play. That said, tournaments that come up are always an opportunity.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, more tournaments. Yeah.
Absolutely, you bet. And that's and people enjoy paying the $10 there and playing around. And there's a little bit of a prize and a little bit of revenue for the operation itself too. So that's very common. So yeah.
Maintenance not key.
And maintenance, that's something where, you know, right off the top of my head, I would say that if there's some kind of a contract we would put together, be it the Grand Forks Disc Sports Club, to do maintenance within it. I mean, in Maple Ridge, what we would do is we kept the place quite clean because we're always going through it as whatnot too, and any kind of assistance we needed on, once these posts are established and these T-pads are in, it's quite minimal. I mean, a rake and a garbage can pretty much keeps these things going. You snap a few branches after a winter because they're dead and out of the way, and the stewardship, I think, of the community itself would go a long way. I know that maybe that statement doesn't hold a lot of water, and we have much more of a policy as we go through, but that's how maintenance is going to work. It's going to be the people who love it and the people who want to provide for the communities too.
So it's not going to be city crews having to go down there and on a regular basis for maintenance duties?
Not at all. I don't see that at all. I'll always appreciate it, but I don't see that. That's not in my plans, no.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Tripp?
You get your bed now.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Conrad. And I think it's Dan, is it?
That's right.
Yeah. So this is a really serious question, and one I really want an answer to. What happens when one of those dog walkers and their dogs catches the frisbee? What does that do?
Well, if they catch it there, we hire them as an ultimate player. We have a hard time catching frisbees as is. So.
Right on. I'll make sure I take my dog down there. She likes to catch things. Actually, I have a serious question, and this may have to be answered by staff. I just was wondering if this land was given for the purpose of the frisbee golf course, what are the ramifications for future development of this property if, say, the city wanted to open it up for some other kind of use down the road?
Thank you. This is very, very low impact on the site, as he's explained, and for that reason, there would be that difficult to change the use in the future if necessary.
And I believe the basis for this, there was no commitment to this. Should there be any proposal for development, this was all agreed upon. I believe we spoke with Director Russell about that too. So should there be anything on the city's part, then we would recapture the property, and unfortunately it would stop. Councillor Butler, then Councillor Krog, and then lady in the front row.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Dan, for coming forward. I know this was talked about at the Rec Commission about a year ago, before we were told, unfortunately, it's not in the Rec Commission's mandate, that we only deal with the arena and the pool mainly. So it's kind of frustrating that it's taken a year to get to this point for something that's so simple to install and such a great benefit for the community. I know at the time when we discussed it, Councillor Russell was at the Rec Commission, and he was hoping that the city would be able to donate the land and he would be able to donate the equipment. So I hope we can hold him to that, because I think it's a good partner sharing agreement. And with regards to clearing the course and stuff, I'm just thinking that maybe if there's bigger items that need to be done, if there's a tree that comes down in a windfall, probably for insurance reasons, if there's chainsaws to be operated, city crews might have to do that. But I'm sure that'll be something that's all ironed out with staff, and they'll probably bring that agreement back to us for final approval. So at this point, let's get going on it. Let's have it up and running for the spring. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I do just want to say that you're absolutely right. I mean, again, I wanted to come here to kind of familiarize people so they knew what this was, and yet it is something that can be moved on quite quickly. The good news right now is when we look at even something as ambitious as the spring, we've got ourselves, we can get all those details and cross those T's and dot those I's. As far as removing any kind of dead trees for safety, that'd be wonderful, because that's something we can mark out there, and already an opportunity to clean that area up. I also just wanted to make a point about the land itself. One of the reasons why the posts are good to go into a sleeve in the bottom is there can be that movement in the future as well too. If a lot of posts are put down into the ground with a big concrete, and then the hassle or the soil degradation to be able to dig all those up can be quite extensive. So I'm setting it up, where I'm planning to have, if there is a situation where it has to be taken back or moved, that's in our cards too. So.
Councillor Krog?
Yeah, just along those lines, it's rather than the statement about the city donating the land and then the regional district paying for it, I see it as a win-win. It could be just a lease or an occupation with the group, so that there is still that potential for anything in the future, and that's what I like about it.
Giving the land.
No.
No,
Yeah.
no.
No, but that was a state, so I just wanted to say no. Okay, I love it. Awesome.
Great job, CEO.
So council, just to note that the recommendation there is also speaking that there will be a stewardship agreement that will be drawn up, and the funding portion, everything that will be presented to council at the end of the month. And so that will outline kind of the aspects of where the city is going to be doing its dedicating. So.
It's too bad Director Russell wasn't here, because I spoke to him at the last meeting and he was anticipating being here, which would have been a good thing. But in any event, to the lady in the front row.
Yes, thank you, Dan. I noticed that throughout the presentation...
Could you identify yourself, please?
Oh, yes, Kate from the Gazette. You use golf disc rather than Frisbee. Is there a difference? Is there a reason? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Here's the purist in me here, who doesn't use the word Frisbee anymore, simply because it's that classic word from way back when I was this big. So we use the word disc. I guess it's being a trademark name. Frisbee actually is.
Frisbee.
Yeah. Although when I talk to a lot of people, of course, Frisbee, they know what a Frisbee is. Yes, but we call them discs. So
Okay, but
ultimate
they're like
discs.
the same thing? They're
Yeah.
not like weighted for the
They're-
same or anything?
They're actually quite different, and I actually was going to bring them in, but I didn't want to take up everyone's time. There's literally drivers, putters, mid-rangers, just like if you were to throw a go out golf in there kind of thing. The geeks like me kind of thing have a whole bunch. But the bottom line is all you need is a Canadian Tire disc and all. That's fine too. A pie plane you can play with. But if you're asking about whether they're the discs I showed up there that were very colorful. There's hundreds and hundreds of different ones, and they're only about $8 to $10 each. So it's nice to have one of those.
Cheaper than golf course.
Very cheaper, yeah.
So you can use individualized discs, but basically it's just your standard disc.
Absolutely, you
And-
can use whatever you like. And those that want to try out these golf discs a little bit more, they tend to be a little bit smaller, and even the smallest of people throw them and they go very far. So they like that too. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Gentleman in this third row.
Yeah, Fred Scott's my name. Yeah, Councillor Butler said it's frustrating that it's taken you a year to get this far. And I have a letter from the Chief Financial Officer saying my points about our water bill is valid. And that letter will soon be 3 years old and nothing has been done. I think this has been lightning fast for you here.
Councilor Hammond.
This might be a question to the staff. If we donate the land or lend it to your uniform society to use as recreational property, is it looked at as a city park recreation area? And where does liability insurance fall into this, and whose responsibility is that?
We'll see, that's going to be discussion. We'll discuss it on the 30th at that point in time when all the negotiations are done. And that's it, because I think we're a little premature on that subject yet. But, go ahead, elaborate more.
Yeah, if we put together a licensed occupation agreement that has all of those pieces in it. And we do have insurance coverage for volunteers on city property already through MIA. So yeah, this would be a pretty standard licensed occupation agreement that we've done in the past with other groups.
That's pretty straightforward.
Sorry, there was another part of that question, Councilor?
No, it was more on, is it become deemed a city park, a city recreation area, and is the city responsible for liability insurance in case anybody gets injured in the sport?
Yeah, in general, that the groups have their own type of liability insurance that covers basically their groups, and then we have a specific type of insurance that covers volunteers that work on our property. So yeah, we've dealt with this in the past, and the property is community use at this time. So it's already zoned appropriately as a basically used for different variety of activities, including recreation.
And there's possibly a collaborative with Area D, which was discussed with Director Russell too, with that collaboration, so possibly some of this will be shared with them too.
Haven't done one in conjunction with Area D yet. That's something we'll have to look into.
The costing on that. Yeah. Councillor Thompson.
And just a question through you, Your Worship, to staff. Inasmuch as the city is a union environment, what impact would that have on the ability for the club to do any maintenance?
to our CAO? So must be minutes.
Your worship, I believe that there has been some talk with Public Works. Council refers to the RFT. They don't anticipate a significant increase. However, there likely would be some work that would be considered as far as the union goes. So there would have to be a definite aspect as to what the union work is and what volunteers will be able to do.
Again, until the terms of reference are established.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you again, Dan.
Thank you.
Great
Thank you,
presentation.
everyone. Much appreciated.
And I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? So carried.
So that was the resolutions recommended to council?
Yeah, to the October 30th regular meeting. Our next item is item 5B. Subject matter is Housing First Homeless Initiative Partnership and Funding Opportunity. From our Manager of Development Engineering Services, the recommendation is the Committee of the Whole receives the presentation from the Boundary Women's Coalition regarding a community-led funding application for developing a Housing First program to address the housing challenges of people experiencing or at risk homelessness. We have a follow-up, but I think we'll deal with this one individually, because it seems there's two resolutions. So may I have a mover on that, please? Councilor Ross. Good morning.
Good morning.
I think this, I don't know if that will work. You should. Really give it a shot.
Dora, can you turn your mic on?
Am I on? Great. I'm just gonna, oh, I think it'll work. This is really far away from me. I need new glasses, I think. So, okay, I think it's working. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Mayor, councilors, staff, and folks in the gallery. My name is Dara, and I'm the Executive Director of the Boundary Women's Coalition. Prior to that employment, I was a team leader for the Housing First program in Medicine Hat, Alberta, where we've been noted as the first community in North America to substantially end homelessness. So upon moving to the community, very excited about the collaboration prospects and history of collaboration between community agencies. We have a very long legacy of working together, so that's a pretty exciting place to come from. So this particular request comes out of Community Action, which is really where we're working on housing for everyone. Now that's all socioeconomic groups, that is for all sorts of folks, that's for people who are experiencing homelessness now, as well as people that will be coming to this fantastic community in future, professional and otherwise, because this is a fantastic place to live. The unfortunate part is there's no room for folks to actually live here. So at first glance, you're about 200 units shy. That's livable spaces to house the population you have now, as well as the population that you require to keep your community services, including your hospital, open. So just that's your little bit of background. So the next piece to this is I'm used to a Mac. So we have an amazing opportunity right now. Timing is everything. About 3 weeks ago, and a call for proposal came to my attention. The deadline for that proposal is October 20th. So that's pretty darn quick. So what had to happen is we needed permission from our board to move forward to apply for this grant money. It is federal funds, and it's through the BC Regional Advisory Board, HPS Rural and Remote Homelessness. It's a request for proposals for the 2018-2019 guide. So other larger communities, or Nelson, Castlegar, et cetera, are excluded. So this is designed for our region. So this is super exciting, because often what happens is the larger centers get the cash and they promise to work in our regions, but they actually don't have manpower to be able to follow through on what they've signed up to do. So sadly, our regions get neglected in the long form. And it's not a malicious thing, it's just the way that it actually rolls out. So what does that call for? The funders require for serious consideration that the municipal government be on board. If you're not on board, I can't apply. It's that simple. So sustainable funding comes from federal and provincial governments. For instance, BC Housing in particular, any of our projects that we want to move forward with after this initial application for grant funding, the answer will always be no if the city's not involved. Oh, that's so much there. Thank you. Okay, so we have a plan. Woohoo! So this is very exciting, and this is grassroots. This is from a community. So this is with all of the folks that work every day with the people who are attempting to be housed, including myself. As some of you know, I came to the community and have been experiencing homelessness for almost 6 months. So I am fully employed, have a fairly significant skill base, and was unable to secure housing. So what we're doing is we're applying for $100,000 in federal grant funding to hire a coordinator to manage the initiative details. As it's been going right now, our community partners have all been trying to do this off the sides of their desks. This is not a new initiative. Folks in your community or our community have been working on these strategic points for years and years and years. So these aren't new ideas. This is just an opportunity to bring those ideas to fruition. To complete a point-in-time count. A point-in-time count, I'll get into a little bit in a slide later. Consultants to assist the boundary community to develop the strategic action plan to end homelessness in the boundary. This is for the entire boundary region. Training for community capacity building. That's what this $100,000 would do. A point-in-time count. Point-in-time count is a recognized tool that provides a baseline for the scope of the issue. In that proposal for funds, we would provide an honorarium for the surveyors who are themselves homeless. So the people going out collecting the information about the homeless folks are going to be the people that are experiencing homelessness themselves, including myself. The point-in-time count provides data to apply for numerous funding sources and implement programming, jumpstart the initiative, and move forward to secure sustainable funding as well. So this point-in-time count is a massive undertaking. It takes a lot of man hours and woman hours and all people hours, and it is boots on the street counting people who are experiencing sleeping outside, as we call it in the business, sleeping rough. Also those of us who are couch surfing, like myself, et cetera, people that are underhoused, so there's too many people in one room, those sorts of pieces. So you can't really address the problem until you know exactly what the issue is that you're facing, and we need to be specific. And this tool is recognized nationwide by funders. So we will secure funding to implement programming. We want to go ahead and investigate as well as follow through on a service hub. We want to develop a housing trust, and we also want to participate in research and development. So one of the things that we need to focus on is, of course, the facts. The fact of the matter is, at an informal count, you have 76 people experiencing homelessness right now. Those are people that we could count. So if you included myself on the list and a number of people that are in the gallery now, you'd probably be closer to 81 when you include the children. So in your community, right now, you have 81 people experiencing homelessness. Only about 20-some-odd% of those have any kind of addiction. And of those people, only maybe 30% of those people have a foundation for mental health concerns. And of those people, well over 90% are from here. They're not from anywhere else. And they've lived here for well over 5 years in some cases. In fact, only 2 of the folks that I've spoken to are from somewhere else, and that they've arrived this year, myself included. So we have a responsibility to tell the truth, and that means getting factual information. So here's housing first, in a nutshell. This is where we're headed to. So this is what would happen once we had the funding in place to actually do a strategic plan. So So a housing first intervention is based on 5 principles, and it's under the assumption, which is actually a human right piece, is housing is a human right. The 5 principles are housing, ergo the name, housing first. You need a place to live before you can take care of the rest of your business. Because I tell you, just on personal account, trying to learn a brand new job and work on the development of an agency while couch surfing has been problematic. The fact that I could find a sweater today was an immense task. Number 2, choice. Individuals experiencing homelessness need to be able to have a choice in where they live and what piece of community they're in. So what that means is nothing about you without you. We are talking to people. People have those choices available to them. Right now, there's no housing stock, so there is no choice. Another piece to that is choice about community you live in. It's a scatter site model. So it's really important that you understand the difference between a scatter site model and a secure site model. So the scatter site piece is people live in different parts of the city. You don't gather a bunch of folks up together and put them in one spot and hope for the best. It's about community integration. The next piece, of course, is recovery. This is a recovery model program. If you're experiencing homelessness, you're experiencing trauma. So when you think about what trauma means for the brain, actually there's a really great YouTube piece called Trauma in the Brain that I recommend everybody go take a peek at. I sent Graham some links. To really understand, when you're working with someone who's experiencing homelessness, there's a whole piece about what their life is right now that needs consideration. So that's another piece about the nothing about you without you. Making decisions for people without talking to them first is irresponsible. The next piece is support. So Housing First is an intervention. So folks just aren't placed in a home. What happens is people choose their house, workers work with them to work on their goals that they set for themselves, and the success rate in Medicine Hat was 89%. That's fantastic. The other piece that is community. So I spoke a little bit about that before. People, there are tag words, like a few years ago it was synergy, and then we talk about wraparound services. What we're talking about right now is integrative, which means that natural support systems occur because we link people with common interests, and they're part of the community, and people care about one another. So for instance, just to kind of dovetail on what Dan was talking about, when you have a place to live, you can play disc golf, you can be involved in the community, you can volunteer. And when you don't have a place to live, it makes it very difficult to contribute. So nothing about you without you. With Housing First, there's 1 point of entry, an assessment is completed, people are triaged as to need the intervention. There are 4 different types of intervention. One is diversion, which is folks that might just need very minimal help. For instance, locating the hidden rental market. The other piece would be rapid rehousing. Folks just have a few barriers and would only require support for 3 to 6 months. Then there's the Housing First intervention, which is a long-term intervention. People sign up for a year to 2 years to go through a 13-dimension piece of lifestyle and living and safety, and work on their goals with staff support and community support as well. The other piece of that is maintenance. You move into maintenance. That's where Medicine Hat is now. They've been able to look at what to do next, how to prevent people from becoming homeless ever in their community. They've housed folks, now they're figuring out how to make sure the system doesn't keep making people homeless. And then, of course, there's celebration throughout. Every step is a celebration because at least there's action and something moving forward. So this is all kind of Housing First in a nutshell, and I'm happy to answer questions that are specific as well about that. But just so you've got an overview. And everyone. So this includes everybody. All people are needed. Everybody from council, everybody from the community, everybody from every community agency, government, staffers, you, me, everybody. And this is the other part. The world is watching. It's been made very clear in media that we have a homelessness issue. Folks are watching. What are we going to do? Are we going to take action, or are we going to wait and hold back? And question time.
I have a quick question for you, Ann.
Yes.
I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago with Ann Gordon from BC Housing. Is this under a similar umbrella initiative?
Well, so BC Housing has a number of initiatives in the works right now. BC at this moment is working on a strategic plan to end homelessness. However, does not have one implemented. At the moment, Alberta is the only province that has that going through. So that is a piece of the pie. So so the modular home piece is a piece. That is an instantaneous response. What we're looking for is we would like to have a strategic plan that involves all of us that's specific to our region, because our region is very specific. And would need to involve all of the other communities as well. And that's where the city municipality piece comes in, is we're asking for you to liaise in your official capacity with other governments throughout the boundary, as well as to support our application so that the strategic plan can actually be put together. Because once we've got a plan, it's so much easier to secure all of the pieces that we need to move forward.
Only because I asked, because the dialogue and the conversation and the wording was also mentioned about housing first.
Yes.
And this is why I mentioned that, is under the same umbrella.
Yeah.
That was the initiative word, was used, housing first.
Yes. Yeah, it's because housing first, so to be very clear, there's a housing first philosophy where it would be really great if people got housing. And then there's a housing first initiative and intervention. The intervention is very specific, it is very detailed, and it is systematic and very sequential in steps. It isn't willy-nilly.
And the mention was also the timelines, because
Yes.
they were recruiting communities, also was the same
Yes.
basic topic.
So the time is now. So that's the other piece, is that the timing is amazing right now, because folks are actively open to solutions that may not have been pursued in the past. And so we have an amazing opportunity to really get involved in a really meaningful way and resolve things in a really meaningful way.
There's already model projects out there
Mhm.
that are operating right now as we speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
Councillor Ross. Then Councillor Tripp, and then
Thank you, Dara. I like nothing about us without us. That's so important. Just a question. What would the service hub look like? And the new government's already made a commitment. I think it's for $271 or $291 million and 2,000 new units throughout BC in the next 2 years.
Yes.
So when we met with both Judy Darcy and with Selena Robinson, and they do work cross-sectorially, and they are talking about the homeless and underhoused, people who are underhoused. And we were very clear that some of that money has to come into rural British Columbia. So like 2 years is really quick.
Yes, it
so
is.
like, I'm like, do it now. So I haven't seen, and perhaps you've seen, what mechanism is in place already for us to apply. I would like to apply for 8 units here. Like, ask for 10, get 6. Ask for 8, get 4. You know, like, do you know, is there an opportunity now for us to apply for that? And I did remind the new government about their commitment to begin focusing on the forgotten rural communities of British Columbia, not the Lower Mainland and Greater Victoria. So, you know, have you seen what mechanism is in place for us to get some of those units? And, you know, and I'm all in favor, let's do it. I think housing is a right, but we have a responsibility. And I'd like to really embrace that responsibility for the city to say, okay, what do we do to get people housed with dignity? So service hub, what does it look like, and it's now, let's get going. So what can we do, and what do you know?
Okay, so I am not keenly familiar with all of the pieces for how to apply for all of the different pieces as yet. I have a working knowledge, but I wouldn't hazard forward to say that I know what that step needs to look like municipally. But the hub itself is like a next step. So one of the hub in our mind's eye is a collective group of folks who meet. It's actually, you've received a letter, I believe, from us. It's the Boundary Interagency Group, and we meet to discuss things that are happening and trends, et cetera, that we notice within our own service groups. So what that would look like is basically a hub of service that has all of the outreach folks going to where the people who need the help exist. So it's a one-stop shop. So
Okay.
it's literally a building that houses a large enough space to run programming. It has the outreach personnel there. We would be able to feed people who are hungry. We would be able to clothe people who are cold. We would have laundry services. We would have a number of things that cost money that have not been accessible for the vast majority, especially considering there's been some constraints upcoming because, of course, to do an intervention of Housing First, you need a 24/7 shelter. You need a community place for folks to gather and be nourished. Because I don't know about you, but have any of you tried to make a decision when you're hungry or tired or sleep deprived, et cetera, et cetera? It's very difficult to do those things. So we need a place where people can meet and eat. We need those pieces. We have that right now. Those are, as you know, in jeopardy right now, which is actually in direct opposition to resolution to the issue. That will actually amplify the problem and make things very difficult for all of our agencies to be able to move forward to work with people who are experiencing homelessness. So as opposed to shutting down what already exists, it's about bringing together everybody who already exists and moving forward. And potentially some of us might be able to join forces and be able to supply a really amazing service to our entire community. So that would be for everybody. But that's the next step. That's the hub. What we need right now is the application to bring in the strategic plan, so that where the city and the boundary folk are all involved. The consultants that assisted Alberta to make their strategic plan are available, and that is part of the funds. I wish they were free, but they too need to eat. So we would actually access the services of that consulting team to work with us to create the strategic plan. When our area has a strategic plan, it's a very concrete step where we're all on the same page. The ability to access the millions of dollars available for our region becomes a lot simpler, and it will be required. So part of the risk about everybody doing a little piece separately is that we won't get the best use of those resources together as a community. We might get someone in isolation doing one piece, but that actually cuts the nose off of another program that's trying to do this piece. So we want to be sure that we are integrated in our response as well, and that everybody's on the same page so that you've got correct information. Because we all have assumptions about what we believe to be true, and sadly, most of that's inaccurate.
Councillor Tripp.
Thank you, Mayor Conrad and Dara. That's just a fantastic presentation, and what you're bringing forward is really, really needed in this community. And I think there are a number of agencies who certainly have a heart to do certain aspects of what you're talking about. They may only be able to do a certain part of it because of the volunteer setup or whatever, but I just really like what I'm hearing you saying. People get from all of these different agencies getting together to work on a holistic program that will so no one will be falling through the cracks. That's really good. And I'm assuming that in this group that you've got meeting, that includes Whispers and Bets at this time?
Yes, so we've invited all community agencies, including the city and city staff, to the table. If you're not at the table, you can't participate. So basically, the nut and bolts about how, just to backtrack, because I'm passionate and I get excited and my brain takes off. Basically, what the city can do is participate in the multi-agency committee. They can liaise with boundary local governments. They can implement the community planning tools that we're developing together and follow through, and then consider land use and see how things might be able to fit in a scatter site. So if nothing else if nothing else comes from today, remember the word scatter site would be really helpful.
And I do have a couple more questions, if that's okay. Yeah, just you were throwing out some very impressive numbers there. And specifically about how many people in Grand Forks are homeless and how many units we are short of what we need. Just wondering, where did those statistics come from?
So through conversation. So that's all what we call qualitative data. So that's through finding out through conversation, through our agency, I guess you would call us our group partners, the folks who meet together, what their numbers are, like who shows up, how many people are they feeding, how many people access those services, how many people access the services from our organization. And then I eat lunch at Whispers almost every day. So a number of the folks who live there are seniors who come to eat, are seniors, etc. So I've had this amazing opportunity to talk to people who are experiencing hardship. Not necessarily all of them are homeless. That's actually a misnomer. Most of the folks that eat at Whispers are actually impoverished as opposed to just homeless. The other piece to that is forecasting based on the information that's come forward. So I don't know if any of you are a part of the group on Facebook actually about for boundary rentals and accommodations, etc. I can't remember the name of it right now for the life of me, but so if you, just to give you kind of a snapshot of what it's like, there are ads in search of ads that go on there every single day. I'm a nurse, I can't find somewhere to work, I'm looking for a place. I'm a lab tech, I've found a job, but there's nowhere to live. So what's been really interesting about that is then having conversations with those people who are in search of, and the information that they've provided as well. So, and then as far as the data about addiction, et cetera, those are national statistics. Yeah.
And then I just had one final question, and that, I'm sorry, that would be about funding. You said that there was $100,000 from federal government?
Yes, that's
for
what we're
this type of initiative. That's for housing, through Housing First?
No, so that funding is for us to be able to initiate a point in time count. It's very specific actually. I actually sent the city staff the actual full RFP, but it's to propel and launch initiatives that are in line with Housing First. It doesn't have to be a Housing First initiative, but it's what you can do to get there, as well as if you've already got a Housing First initiative rolling and there's some deficits that you need addressed, you can apply for those funds through that means as well. So what we're applying for is the piece about the point in time count, the coordination, and the follow through. Here's the other piece. The $100,000 is a one-time thing. So what we've got to do is set the bedrock or the foundation to implement a Housing First intervention. That's what this $100,000 would be for. The other piece to note is that what's mandated in this proposal is either an exit strategy or a sustainability strategy. Part of the sustainability strategy is once we've actually got the point in time count, we open ourselves up to a whole nother system of funding, provincially and federally.
So that would be my final question, and that would be, would this $100,000 that would be used for this point in time count, because that sounds like it's going to take a bit of time to get that done, is that going to in any way impede the ability to apply for the provincial money that is available, it sounds like right now, for programs for homeless and housing programs?
We can do all of it in conjunction. Yeah, so there isn't this doesn't preclude other actions being taken. What's beautiful is that, say council says, yes, we're on board, that statement, our city council says this, goes in all the applications. So the fact that we would be able to move forward with the city on board would give us so much more, and our results would be so much more positive to be able to actually follow through. So that's for affordable and sustainable housing projects ad infinitum. Like, this is from now on to. This isn't just about Housing First. This happens to be doing the bedrock for affordable housing for the entire community. leading to Housing First. So it's way bigger than just a Housing First intervention.
Councillor Hammond.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dara. A couple of things. As Councillor Ross indicated, we did meet with Minister Darcy, Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, as well as Selena Robinson, home on
Municipal affairs
and housing. And we did express concerns regarding the lack of outreach workers and healthcare workers in the communities to assist people in need. And so they're fully aware. Hopefully your dialogue with Interior Health, they've committed, and they are committed to bringing people in to make this project successful. So I'm hoping that that's what's happening. And the other thing is, I wasn't part of this committee, but the city did have a transitional housing committee that met for 10 months and did as much as they could, and then turned that over to individuals that were going to follow through with that. And I'm just wondering if you were able to access any of that data that might perhaps help you with what you're applying for this grant for.
Thankfully, some of it, yes. So the steering committee that had met, a number of people that were on that steering committee have had conversations in community as well. So those folks still are very invested. And then just to be clear too, this isn't about transitional housing. What we've learned through transitional housing is that doesn't work. We've learned that. So what we're talking about is permanent, affordable housing for everyone, regardless of your economic status, regardless of any other piece of identifying information for you as a human being. This is about affordable housing within our region for every single body.
Councillor Crowe and Councillor Butler.
Okay, a couple of things. The amount, the 100,000, you mentioned consultants for the strategy, but now you're talking about the pit. So does that include both?
Yes.
Okay, so that's one. The other thing is we've been talking, and it's for our area, and it's boundary wide. So a two-parter. Have you received support letters from Greenwood, Midway, Area C, Area D, Area E?
So those requests have gone out, and what we're really hoping for, because frankly, you'll be the leaders. So what we are very much hoping is that the support comes from council, and your connections from government to government is where those requests would come from. So I talk about we, as interagencies, have made it very clear to all of the other agencies what we're going and doing. What we're really looking for from council is that leadership piece where council would be like, we're on board, and council would contact the other governments, the other municipalities.
Okay.
So Midway, on the municipal level. Does that make sense? Because I'm noticing faces, so
yeah,
I'm wondering what the
I got
reaction is.
the answer, but it's not the one that I wanted. We're not the only council.
No.
And
yes.
I was wondering if presentations were being made to the other councils. For years, it seems like everybody comes here first, and when we ask, they either haven't thought of or haven't made those presentations. But you need, if you want it to be the city of Grand Forks and their strategy, then that's where this council could come to play. If you want it to be a boundary-wide initiative, then we are one of the players, one of the councils. And the second question was, that goes along with it, the scatter housing, which makes more sense than anything creating tenements and stuff like that. So are the plans that the scatter housing would be boundary wide?
Yes.
Not just the city of Grand Forks?
So to speak to the first bit, you are my first presentation. I'm starting here. So
Okay, but
that's
you
the
have
first thing.
plans to
So-
do because there was no mention of that.
Well, yes, because if this request fails, we're done. So I have a deadline for the 20th of October. So you are persona number one. This is where I came first. And what I'm asking for and what is in the request is that we have this conversation and that, for instance, Mayor Conrad or council uses your influence with the other areas to assist those conversations. So that is part of what I'm asking for, is that dialogue of this is what's come to pass, this is what we would like to see. Are you in support? I will continue to contact folks as well, but in the meantime, that's part of what I'm asking for municipality action. Does that,
Okay,
does that answer?
With all due respect, I don't believe that the cities and the council, that's our mandate to communicate and contact other municipalities to do the work of this program.
Oh, okay.
That's not in our mandate.
May I? When we were talking about the task force some time ago, one of the commitments that you made, sir, was to talk to the other mayors within our boundaries, to talk about what they are doing and what should be done. And so it's basically the same sort of conversation. The difference is, all we're doing is we are bringing the consultants here. So we have an opportunity to apply for some money so that the city doesn't have to actually pay for the consultant, and the city doesn't have to pay for the point-in-time count, and the city doesn't have to pay for those pieces. So what we're doing is we're accessing the funds based on our society status to bring all of that here so that Grand Forks, as well as the other municipalities in the boundary, can benefit. That's the purpose. So it's not about following through on what our program is. This entire initiative is to address the need that's in the community and actually has very little to do with our programming. So does that make sense?
Unless I'm totally wrong, I believe Councillor Krog was initiating going in the same direction I am, which is what I mentioned to Ann Gordon at the time when I spoke with her, is what other municipalities do you have on board at this point in time, or are there any yet other than one that I know of? So this is where we're going in the boundary area. Other municipalities and districts have to kind of do their own work rather than us trying to influence them to get on board. That's not, and as mentioning the task force, this was just for input from the mayors, not to convince them to get into any kind of program. We wanted the dialogue and the information of what's happening out there. So it's a completely different concept of what you're suggesting.
I respectfully disagree. What I'm speaking to is about bringing the ability to bring the information forward. I'm not asking anyone to get on board with any kind of program. What I'm asking you to get on board with is to talk to the other communities about what this city council is willing to do. That is all I'm asking for. So just to be super clear about that, what I'm asking for is support in our application to do a point-in-time count to assess the actual issues boundary-wide, as well as to be able to speak to what your decision would be to other municipalities. It's not about convincing people to be on anything. It's about information sharing, much the same. The other piece is to be able to bring, because this is what I'm applying for, or we, it's not me, we are applying for, is to have consultants come to do the strategic planning part. And all those people would need to be at the table.
Can I answer her question as well? I've been waiting for quite a while.
Okay, I never got to finish mine.
Councillor Krog didn't finish.
Okay, just one thing.
Sure.
And I like the idea, I like the concept, I think it's awesome. I'm just concerned, or not even concerned, just a letter from the Regional District of support, a letter from the City of Grand Forks for support, the letter from the City of Greenwood and the Village of Midway is way better than a letter from the City of Grand Forks.
Yeah.
And it's something that when proponents come forward, right, we don't usually go to a council meeting in Greenwood and say this is what we've done as the city, whether it's disc golf or housing first, they make the presentation and say, the City of Grand Forks is on board, can we count on you? And that's, the only thing that I see is missing. If we want to do it boundary wide, we need the rest of the boundary,
Yes.
not just the city. So,
Yes, and to speak to that, I'm not stopping here. You're first.
That's right. That's what she's going to talk
So I don't know if I've made myself clear.
Oh, you've made yourself clear.
Oh, okay.
Councillor Hammond and Councillor Dennis.
Sorry, I haven't spoken yet. I just want to say it's an amazing opportunity when you have the right person come to your community at the right time and for the right project. And we've got all three of those coming together right here. This is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I mean, this is amazing that we have all these three coming together, that we can move forward on, and that we get to be a part of it. All she needs is our support just to submit the application, and the timing is now. She needs it within 4 days. So once Grand Forks supports it, then I suggest that council make a motion that our representative to the regional district take this to the regional table so that Dara can present at the regional table and get all those communities together at the same time to support her rather than having to go around to each individual meeting. And as well, I'd like council to make a motion to appoint somebody to the committee that's meeting on this so that Grand Forks does have representation at that table. And I know I'd love to be a part of that, but I'm sure that each council member here would also probably like to sit on that committee, so I might have to fight you for it. But let's just pass this motion and let's support Dara, and then let's move forward with taking this to the regional table through our representative and get this done.
Councillor Hammond?
Yeah, I understand that there's a timeline here, and without having to wait to take it to the regional table, I would suggest that council endorse this, and then perhaps we just send out an endorsement, because I know a letter has already gone out to the other municipalities, and I think we need to give you a letter of endorsement, and I think we also need to send a letter of endorsement to the other communities to let them know that we're supporting this, and then let them decide from there because that will expedite this a lot quicker than waiting for another meeting and getting on an agenda to make a presentation. We can just email, or you can email our endorsement to the other communities to let them know. So I would make a motion that we get our letter of endorsement in as soon as possible.
That's
So
what
it
the
can be
motion is.
sent.
That's what the motion is.
You gentlemen in the back wanted to speak.
I know this is a time-sensitive thing. Does it require all the other communities to be on board? Or can we just start small, just in Grand Forks itself? And they can add as necessary as they go along. As I look at it, it only needs one community to go. If we spearhead it, it's not like we have to have Greenwood and Midway and Christina Lake in order to make this all work. We could just start off small and then work forwards from there.
I can speak to that. So yes, so we absolutely can do it that way. The other piece is that the reason why I'm here first is because if I don't get yes here, I've got no chance anywhere else. So I've started here first. So the other piece to that is that in the application, it would say endorsement from Grand Forks and would list all the other municipalities that I've yet to actually attend meetings for, but we've been in communication with. So those are the other pieces, is that this is about getting the funding to be able to have these real meaningful conversations, because I'm one person that actually works at a different job. So the amount of time, this is off the side of my desk, so the amount of time I can spend is minimal. So it's been a little bit of a jog trying to get a hold of everyone and moving forward. So yes, so the application itself just needs to state that the actions that are taking place, the people that would be involved, and that consultation piece would then sort out all the details about who, what, when, where, and how. Because I don't have those ready for you yet.
Councillor Thompson, then Councillor Frog.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Dara. Just a couple of comments. You made reference to the fact that a couple of organizations, I believe you were referring to the Whispers of Hope and BEPS, as not being able to continue their operations. My understanding is that BEPS is working on a project that is going to meet their needs. And I would hope that Whispers of Hope would also be looking for another location with which to continue their operations, in as much as they have been given 6 months in which to do that. And the second comment that I wanted to make was that while at the UBC, I mean, this is part of my report to council tonight, is that there was a workshop on short-term rentals and affordable housing. Is there room for both? And of interest, and you may want to, or we may want to investigate this further, is that Richmond, the city of Richmond, has partnered with developers on low-cost housing, preserved affordable rental options for residents, and preserved single-family neighborhoods. And it's been accomplished through a review of their zoning gaps, public consultations, and a legal review. So, you know, as you said earlier, it's not just Grand Forks, it's province-wide.
Very much so. And to speak to the point, what I'm actively referring to is that the eviction notice that was presented to those organizations that you mentioned. I can't speak about those organizations. I don't sit on their boards. I can't make any kinds of comments about where they are or are not at. All I can say as a community member that an eviction notice to the one place where people can go when it's cold and the one place people can go to eat, that was a blow to all of us that access those services. So that was the piece, because it actually demoralizes even further the people that are already at risk. Because if you can imagine for a moment, you arrive home and you've received a notice saying, we know it's getting cold outside, but you can't stay here anymore. That's what the people who are at the ground level here, regardless of the political pieces, that is what happens for the people that are sleeping on the streets, or the seniors that have such a small income that they need whispers of hope to be able to eat every day their one meal. Those are the pieces I'm talking about. That piece, when folks don't have hope about what's going to be coming next, that's when things get really, really desperate. So that's the piece that I was speaking to, was the stressors of it, even just plainly of an eviction notice. So that's what I was speaking to. As far as what they're doing, I can't speak to that, but I can just speak what it was like for, as a community member, to have that hit the news. Yeah.
Okay. Before Councillor Clark, can I just weigh in on that comment that you made? Now, making this letter of support application, or letter of support, call it that, by what you just mentioned regarding the actions of the city, which is coming up, does that not fly in the face of this letter of support? It's actually totally contradictory by what we're doing, because you yourself stated that it's totally negative of this whole program. In regarding to those organizations, you had stated at the onslaught at the beginning of your conversation.
Are you talking about
the fact that we're planning to close it.
Okay, so yeah, so the first point of contact is very, very important. So we need the shelter, and we need a place where people are eating. We need those things to provide for the people in our community. And those spaces right now offer places for like the outreach workers to meet and congregate and earn trust with the people that are the most vulnerable in our city. That's what I'm speaking to. So I'm not sure that maybe my meaning got misunderstood, or maybe I didn't speak really clearly.
Well, let's put it another way then. Instead of using fly in the face, it almost seems hypocritical if we're putting a letter of support and yet we are closing one of our establishments.
Oh, on your behalf, absolutely.
That's what I'm stating.
Yes.
So what would be the purpose of a letter of support?
Because we can't get the funding to move forward if we don't.
I'm just saying at the high level issue, it almost seems hypocritical that we are putting in a letter of support based on the city, yet within our own corporation, we're doing what we're doing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. That is completely hypocritical.
Yeah. Councillor Frog.
Okay. This conversation's kind of gone sideways, but just for clarification, after Mr. Warp had spoken, I like the initiative. I intend to support the letter. I was told I would get a copy of the proposed letter before this meeting, but I didn't. So I would like to see that. But my only point was, yes, we can pass that at our council, but there was no mention of the rest of the boundary until we started to inquire about it. So it's not done here. Like if we pass this, that's just one part of it. The rest of the boundary has to be done and has to have all the support that's straight across.
Yeah.
So that was my only point, was not waiting till the other guys have talked about it. It's that the group needs to finish its job, to get all the support it can throughout the boundary.
Oh, most definitely, absolutely.
Councillor Thompson, Councillor, actually the
Oh.
lady in the front row was giving way. Sorry.
Thank you. So, and just because we're talking about boundary-wide support now, maybe to add some clarity and just make sure I understand correctly, you will be seeking letters of support from the other councils.
Yes.
But given that every council in this area meets on a Monday, smaller councils don't have committee of the wholes, and that we recently had Thanksgiving and you're looking at a timeline, is that why presentations to other councils have not yet been done?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes. That was very concisely said. That is exactly why. And this is the other piece, is that whole timing is now piece, is the RFP came across my desk not quite 3 weeks ago. So it was like, here's this opportunity, deadline's the 20th of October, and it was, holy Dinah. So what can we do right now with the ability to access these funds that otherwise we might not have an opportunity at all to access? So it's that timing is now piece, right? Yeah.
Councillor Thompson and Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too am very supportive of this initiative, and I really hope that with our council, I hope will give support to submitting this letter, because I think it's very, very timely and very, very much needed. The other comment I wanted to make, and with respect to the mayor, we are not closing the Whispers of Hope. We have served them notice to relocate, to vacate the premise. And it is going to be their responsibility to take action and make every effort to be able to accomplish that. I know, and I'm digressing a little bit, but I do want to say this. I do know that in some communities, and I think Councillor Hammett has brought this forward as well, that the food bank and a soup kitchen work together. And there are initiatives in other municipalities that would support that. So again, perhaps those two organizations could get together and come to a mutual agreement on how to manage this particular issue.
Well, and again, I'm not on any of those boards, so, but what I can speak to is that conversations exactly of this nature occur at the big meeting, where all of the agencies come together to talk about. So all those ideas are always welcome. That's the other piece, but we need somebody at the table.
Well,
to
I
do,
haven't
yeah.
seen an invitation.
No.
We never got it.
Okay, well, you make sure that didn't get lost someplace.
Right. We were curious. We
Yeah.
knew what was going on. We're
Yeah.
like, we haven't been invited.
No. Okay, I'll find out what's, I'll look into that to see what's happening.
Councillor Tripp, then the gentleman in the back.
Thank you, Mayor Conrad, and this is just a very brief comment. It seems to me this certainly isn't a case of either or in terms of this project and then the other nonprofits that we have in the community that are providing supports for homeless or marginalized people. It's and because it's not an either or situation, this would be very easy to support, and I'm absolutely all for it. I am really wanting to support the other organizations in the community that are already providing excellent services and have plans, of their own to move forward. But I certainly don't see this in any way stepping on their toes. And I would, I think from what I've heard from you, that I'm confident that that's not happening. That they're absolutely at the table, and that their requests or their needs or their plans, whatever they're thinking of in terms of moving forward, would be incorporated and would be considered. And that's just really important for me to know.
Well, and absolutely, because this is about that integrative piece where we all have different means that we could bring together to serve people the most efficiently as possible with the means we have in front of us. The amount of dedicated folks that live in this community trying to make a difference, you're renowned, actually, for that collaborative piece.
Gentleman in the back row.
So, for the $100,000, it would bring in a person or dedicate the funds to having a coordinator that would work between all elements to be able to more effectively branch everything together to work effectively and to speak towards the city that's thinking it's maybe hypocritical. What we have right now isn't working with the response from the community itself, is the frustration over some elements that are going on. But in supporting this, by actually bringing together a committee coordinator and acknowledging that what hasn't worked isn't working, and supporting towards something that would bring everything together and maybe provide fruitful footing to move forward in a plan that will work, I think would make the council look very good, would provide the community with a more effective looking leadership role and actually deal with the problems that are going on and provide the the support that we need, because it's not just council. When, as a member of the community, there's a big frustration with an element that you were speaking of that is beyond the homeless, beyond the senior citizens who need to deal with, the economic footing. It's maybe we could bring in the RCMP and have an actual structure going forwards that would be beneficial for the community, deal with the frustration from the community with a very small element that's ruining for everyone, and really move forward. And I think it would make the council look very good going forward and deal with the frustration from the community, which is kind of one reason why I'm here when I'm not normally, because as the community, I have 3 neighbors who've been broken into, and I can tell you where our stuff is going. And you know where our stuff is going. And it's really frustrating because I support Whispers of Hope and I support Bats because it's a big problem that deals with everything. But if we don't have the coordination to actually deal with this, we can't move forwards. And that's just my take on it.
And the other piece to that is being very mindful not to hold organizations accountable for the behavior of people outside of their working hours, etc. Otherwise, all of you would be very much responsible for every single human being that resides, whether housed or not, in this area on a very personal level. So we want to be really careful not to pigeonhole responsibility insofar as we have a collective responsibility to care for the people in the community. That's all of us.
Lady in the back row.
Janice Podovinica. I've been a member of the community for over 33 years. And I know that a lot of these organizations are working together very strongly. Tammy Battersby up at the Gospel Chapel works with the food bank, she's on the board with Whispers. She's with Restorative Justice. The food bank, they work with Tammy, they work with Whispers. These organizations are doing as much as they can now. They need this extra help. That's when they're operating. If they have women come in and there's room at the shelter, they are sent up there. I myself right now find myself out of a suitable home. I have sold, and it's hard to find anything in this community under $100,000 range that's decent. I've looked at a few places. I'd have them bulldozed. They want $130,000 for it. We need affordable housing. We need, for some of these people that are at high risk, whether it's mental health or addictions, or like I find myself just in that transitioning stage of going from, Neil knows me good, he knows my family, my family was raised in this community. I've got 2 sons that have moved away. My ex has moved away. I am left now as a single person here. From being a mother raising her 2 small kids in this community to being single. So I've watched this community over time. We are in a crisis situation, and it needs to be addressed. Yes, you have to look after your property. Yes, there's issues, but Dara needs the help now, and this letter of support needs to be done. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to call the question now. All in favor to receive the presentation? Anyone opposed? So carried.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to put forward a second motion.
There is a second motion coming first on the agenda. Councillor Butler. We didn't do the follow-up motion recommendation yet, which leads exactly to submitting the letter of support at the regular meeting this evening. We were doing them separately.
Right? Then I have another motion after your follow-up motion.
So I'll make that motion if you need someone.
Which one?
The, further that, Committee of the Whole.
So recommend to council to have the city submit a letter of support in the application by the Boundary Women's Coalition to the Homeless Partnering Strategy Rural and Remote Funding Program at the October 16, 2017 regular meeting. Mover, please, Councillor Tripp. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? So carried.
I would like to see the letter. Just saying.
Pardon?
Oh, I'd like to see the letter. Because there was, like I said, there was supposed to be a draft.
Okay, well, we should have it this evening, so
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah.
All right. Councillor Butler?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to put forward a motion that council, or that the Committee of the Whole also recommends to council at tonight's meeting to appoint someone to the, what's the board called?
Oh, we call it big,
To the big board.
Just wondered, how many can we have?
You can have as many as you like.
Well, maybe we should do two, and one can be an alternate, that way if someone can't attend.
I'd certainly be interested.
I'd be interested.
So, I mean, I think we're all interested, but maybe that could be a discussion we have tonight. We can all think about it and just put that as a motion following this one on tonight's agenda.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? So carried. All right, thank you, Darrell.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the monthly highlight report. From our department managers.
Is there a good point that we should just take a 2-minute health break?
Sure. Recess for 5 minutes. Okay, I'm calling this meeting back to order.
How'd you get there?
Well, I've got a copy.
All right. Oh, okay, from the website? Okay, anyways. I'll look at that.
All right. We're going to move on to item 5C, the monthly highlight reports from the department managers. The recommendation is the committee of the whole receive the monthly activity reports from the department managers. Mover, please.
So moved.
Councillor Crog.
Sorry, I do have one question.
Councillor Butler.
I did see our bylaw enforcement officer here, so I'm hoping he's not too far away.
Yeah, they left when we were.
It says here that he attended a conference in Langley about legalities surrounding homeless camps, and I'd just like to get a bit more information from him on that conference that he attended.
Can we get Bud, please, and maybe Dave Bruce?
I have a question.
Just one of those.
Did anybody else have other questions that we could do while we're waiting?
No, my other one is,
Okay, we gotta hold on. The next one. Unless it's a question that doesn't pertain to either of the.
It doesn't pertain to that, and I think it, the staff are in the room that could potentially respond to
Okay,
my
so,
question.
okay, out of courtesy, to Councillor Butler, are you okay to advance with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so, thank you, Mayor Conrad. I just was wondering about under the electrical there.
Can you put on your mic?
Oh, okay, sorry.
Not that we can't hear you, but.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, under the electrical there, there was an item, replace 3 transformers with dual voltage transformers for voltage conversion. And I had recalled that on our last meeting, I guess it would have been at the regular meeting, we were going to, it said that we could get a report on the voltage conversion program this time. So I just was wondering, was that part of that, or could we get maybe a little bit more in-depth report on that program, how it's going?
Our manager, Mr. Reed.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the voltage conversion, our crew's been working on some of the single line work that we could do. I think in total for the whole project there was about 156 transformers that had to be changed to dual voltage. And then once Fortis was complete with their substation, then they would work on changing over some of the system downtown and up Riverside and Valley Heights that was currently the 4 kV to the 12 kV. So we did, I think we received 5 proposals, so we're just going through them with the contract work that is going to be done with the project. So it's at the early stages, but we should be, looking at the timelines, we should be complete by the end of March next year with the contract work. And our crew will do the actual conversion.
I have a quick question, Mr. Reed. In regards to rebates from Fortis, LED conversions, etc., are the residents of Grand Forks eligible? I believe they're not, because they're not a Fortis customer, but indirectly we are a Fortis customer through the city of Grand Forks.
Sorry, are you talking about the streetlight project, or are you talking about just
residential people that change their lighting to LEDs, and there's rebates available. But because we have our own utility, why would there not be a way of doing this, because we do purchase the power from Fortis, that the residents can also be eligible for these rebates? Is there anything, an initiative that can be put forward to make that happen?
Yeah, that was some of the conversation that we did have with Fortis, some of the rebates, and I think they're willing to work with us and promoting that. So.
Yeah, because I feel it's not fair to the residents that they're penalized because they're not getting their power directly billed from Fortis. So I think it's an initiative. If we're willing to be energy conscious, we should be eligible for these rebates. It seems that the city's not going to give them out because we do have a lower electrical rate already. But at the same token, Fortis is the bulk provider, so they should be willing to give us that same opportunity.
Right. And like I said, we are working with Fortis on bringing some of those initiatives more front and center for Grand Forks.
That would be great. Thank you.
I just heard what you said. I believe that there's a nice lady from Fortis who's come here year after year for the last 5 or 6 years talking about the rebate program that they have is actually available to people in Grand Forks, because people in Grand Forks who buy gas, they buy it from Fortis. So
you know, but gas
customers.
But electrical. I'm talking electrical.
I'm pretty sure that they offer those rebates to electrical as well.
No.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to be a Fortis customer for electric, Fortis Electric. Gentleman in the second row.
Fred Scott. Yeah, when I came to Grand Forks here and I found out we had our own power utility, I thought it was probably from some old power plant from when we had a mine or something here. I didn't realize we were purchasing the power from Fortis. And then I've gone on the city website to look at the electrical, and when I did, I think I found pictures of the Smiling Crew. But I have property out in Christina Lake, and my basic monthly charge is less, and my charge for kilowatt hour is less. So I would like to know if this utility, where Grand Forks is maintaining it and supplying the infrastructure and stuff, is making money and subsidizing other aspects of the city operation.
That's kind of a non-relevant question, but I guess we could be in Committee of the Whole. Shame on me for opening a Pandora's box. Go ahead, Mr. Reed.
Sorry, just for clarification for the first point, Fortis offers the rebate to customers, including our customers. So so the residents in Grand Forks. So we're working to better get that out there, that message out there.
Okay.
So you are eligible for some of the savings that Fortis offers, but we just wanted the program to go together to get that message out there better. Perfect. For the other question, there's a tiered rate structure with Fortis, so there's it's hard to really compare apples to apples because we have a flat rate for regardless of the power we use. Fortis is going through a rate review right now and looking at how they structure their rate, so that may change for your property right now.
Yeah, well, you would think that the rate would be higher in Christina Lake because they got to run so much more line and everything else to get to the residents.
Okay.
Our
Yes.
officers here.
So Councillor Butler, you can proceed now.
Great, I just saw on Mr. Alcock's report that he'd attended a conference in Langley regarding homelessness, and I was just wondering if you could get more detail on what you learned there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Morning, Mr. Alcock.
Morning. Basically, it was a bylaw officers conference, and we had this presentation from DominionLaw.gov, which is an independent lawyer firm. And what they dealt with was the legalities of dealing with the homeless issues and how we had to comply in various ways through the Supreme Court decisions and this sort of thing. It was a great opportunity for networking. I would like to be in touch with that organization again, the actual law firm, to get more detail from them because there was not ample opportunity to ask a lot of questions. Some of the things they were talking about was the ticketing processes. Even though the people are not property owners and probably in no position to be able to pay a ticket, the ticket is a basis of groundwork for other actions down the road. That's about the best I can say at this point in time. It was well worth attending and well worth listening to the other bylaw officers as well.
Councillor Thompson and Councillor Tripp.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to both Bud and David. Through a discussion that we had recently, you talked about something that was done, and I think, David, it was you that brought it up, in the Lower Mainland with, and God forgive me, SEPTA, whatever the acronym is. Can we get a report on that at some point in the future? Because I was so excited when you explained what that was all about.
Well, I can certainly give you a verbal report on that now through the mayor. Just this morning, I received a proposal back from a consultant in Kelowna who is quite prepared to meet with us on Friday and Saturday of this week to review the community and to review some crime prevention strategies that could be employed.
So can you explain a little bit for the benefit of those that...
Oh, certainly, through the mayor. SEPTED is it's kind of a landscape design approach, which is commonly used in Lower Mainland. It's an acronym for crime prevention through environmental design. And basically, it's looking at your environment and trying to ensure as best as possible that you're addressing crime prevention measures, such as with illumination, visual reconnaissance, and other features of which I'm somewhat aware of, but there are specialists who do this. And so I'm just reviewing his proposal today, I suppose, and we'll have more over the coming days.
Thank you. Councillor Tripp.
Thank you, Mayor Conrad. Yeah, through you to these two gentlemen, because it seems to me that if we don't get the police on board to support what is happening through the city staff, then your hands are tied, and there really isn't much that you can do because you've got the same people doing the same things over and over again. And I just wonder how is that working for you? What do you see? Is there anything that you see that should be done better or to enhance the situation? And then the other thing is that 22 homeless camps, are they right within city limits? And how is it that you are unable to address 22 homeless camps and not be able to do anything to move those people along? I'm not trying to attack you in any way. I'm just trying to find out, like, this is really incredible to me. And obviously you need some help. And it seems to me that you're not getting it. So I'm just wondering if you can enlighten us in any way.
Excuse me.
Mr. Alpert.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The RCMP and I are very collaborative. We work very well together. They are incredibly short-staffed at this point in time. They're actually bringing in members from out of town to work in town because a number of officers off with injury on duty, this sort of thing. The reason that we have the number of camps, of course, is we had an influx of transient people over the summer, and a lot of them are still here. We have had a couple move on. The reason they've not been able to deal with them is because of the bylaw itself, the Parks and Land Use bylaw, which is up for revision that we will see discussed
tonight. Yeah.
Okay. It did not have any teeth in it that gave me the authority to go and have these people comply with the Supreme Court decision, which is where they're allowed to camp on city property during certain hours and must clean and leave by a certain hour in the morning. The other issue of this is the fact that the majority of the camps are on Crown land. So we have taken the approach of treating that Crown land the same as every other property within the city and following the city procedures for the removal of the unsightly premises. In other words, the removal of the garbage. I'm not talking about the removal of the people, just the garbage. So in that light, we have given first notice indication to Ministry of Highways, Ministry of Environment, and Ministry of Lands and Forests. We've already, David, had a very recent meeting with Mr. Mayor, with the manager from Nelson for the Department of Highways. As a result, the camp under the bridge on Yale Road Bridge on Central Avenue will be cleaned this week.
Nice.
And it will be made uninhabitable with a natural substance. If that does not work, they have agreed to barricade the sides of the abutment so that it cannot be used in the future. We're moving ahead on that project tomorrow. We're waiting for responses from the other two ministers. It should be interesting. I call this program the mouse that roared.
Has anybody else ever done that before, sending them?
Yes, not sure. Yes,
we have. Yeah,
they've had a few. Yeah, as he mentioned, they've done it before.
Yeah. Oh.
So, and it was a very, very collaborative effort with Ministry of Highways.
Yes.
And very, very cooperative, and I think it's going to be our first step to a great initiative here in the city.
If I could just one quick question as an addendum to what you just said. So you said 22 camps were, the majority of them were on Crown land. Do you know approximately how many are actually not on Crown land and on city property?
Just off the top of my head, there are 4 of those currently. 5, pardon me, currently. One of which will also be taken care of this week through another initiative that we started a month ago. And that was one up by the old dam site.
Okay. And would the bylaw that we're going to be looking at tonight address your inability to deal with these ones on city property?
Yes.
So you could get those done at least to get those cleaned up?
It does.
Okay.
And further to that, yeah, the camps are on Crown land, but they're in city limits. So they're, and the province has basically been abdicating responsibility to putting it back on us to do the cleanup. And we're saying, no, it's your property.
Thank you.
To Kate.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to our bylaw officer here. You said that the camp under the bridge on Central will be made uninhabitable?
That is correct.
How?
I don't think we should disclose that at this point yet.
You said through uninhabitable through a natural
Yeah,
substance.
that's not the discussion at this point yet.
Your worship, it's through the initiatives of the MOTI, and that's their
exactly.
their pieces.
Yeah. Until such a time, unless, because they could possibly curtail the operation. So at this point in time, that's not discussed. We're not going to discuss the actual elements of how it's going to go. But once it happens, the public will be made aware of it at that point in time, and they'll see it.
Okay, just another question on that, if I may, through you, to you actually. This consultant you were talking about, who may come in the next few days, that's like, you know, in bigger cities, they have a lot of architecture and in like city design projects that prohibit people from, say, sleeping on public benches. Is that the kind of thing we're looking at, or is it a little bit different?
Yeah, through the mayor. I actually come from a bigger city.
Mm-hmm.
Every development permit that was issued in the bigger city came with a crime prevention report to minimize criminal activity on certain sites. One of them, just like you say, is no longer do you have 6 or 7 foot long benches without arms every 2 feet, right?
Right.
Other mechanisms that they utilize to minimize criminal activity. It'll never completely go away, I'm certain, but I notice in this town, I haven't been here that long, that you know, we're a grid which is slashed right through with the diagonal main street, and that creates all kinds of particulates and all kinds of little areas which are prone to criminal activity. And I'd sure be interested to see what this consultant would suggest.
So are you? Okay.
Just to weigh in on this, Sergeant Fensky is aware of this program, by the way,
Yes.
and he highly encourages it. He thinks it's going to be a very, very good program.
And we will be having discussions with the RCMP when he does come to town.
Oh, and that was kind of my next question. So I know you said it just happened this morning. So is he, like, just so for my frame for writing about it, he's actually coming, or is that yet to be confirmed? Or
I'm 99% certain he will be here on Friday.
Okay.
I haven't signed off on the PO yet.
All right.
That's coming.
All right.
Thank you.
So unless we have any other questions, I'm going to, gentleman in the back.
Les Johnson, GFTV. I'm just curious if you could explain what it is that's actually going on up at City Works and the sewage lagoon. Because I know this over the last month, you've got a huge pit that you put a liner in, now you've got bladders in there, you're filling them up. Is that the crud from the sewage lagoon? And I also saw you had a boat in the sewage lagoon. I am curious.
It wasn't proficient.
Turd troll.
Manager development engineering.
Yeah, so economic development, we're offering charters on the lagoons.
And jumps on the big bag. On the backflips.
This is a part of our large capital project that we're working on this year, the wastewater treatment plant upgrades. So the boat is a dredge that's sucking biosolids up from the bottom of the lagoon, and they're pumping them into those large plastic bags on the other side, not plastic, which are geotubes. And so the solids stay inside the tubes, and then the water comes out, and we dewater them, and eventually that stuff will be dried, and then we'll be working on a land application plan or some sort of composting program to deal with the biosolids at that point. So it's just part of the overall project. It's about a $4 million project, so it's just first, second steps.
How long are the, when do you see completion of the whole biosolids remediation, the tubes are gone and everything else? I'm just curious.
Well, this project we are hoping to get completed by May. It's, you know, things, a lot of construction over it. Construction is weather dependent, so it's, that's proposed, and technically, with everybody else in the province, we're supposed to have had these completed by March 31st, 2018, but being that they announced the grants in February, pretty much everybody in the province has asked for extensions, not just us, some up to 2-3 years to get completed on their projects, because a year is a pretty short timeline to pull off some of these projects. So yeah, we're working towards by summer, hopefully, of next year.
Thank you.
For the full completion.
Councilor Tripp.
Thank you, Mayor Conrad. Yeah, one question relevant to that would be, will that sludge, for lack of a better word, or whatever, compost, whatever it ends up being, be tested for heavy metals?
To our manager.
Yeah, it has been tested in the past, and we have done some work on looking at what we can do with that product. So depending on what it contains in the end, because we are screening it to get a little garbage first, and then we have to look at it from that perspective of what you could do with it. And there's certain land applications that you can do and not do, depending on the concentrations of the different types of metals in the biosolids.
Anybody glowing in the dark yet?
Yeah.
We're aware of.
All right. All right. Lady in the third row.
Gloria Cook, do you have any idea or plans in place as to where you're going to put the sludge, the dried sludge?
Any idea where we're putting it?
That's another project completely looking at land application plan, and so we would be looking at what we can do with biosolids and what there's different things you can do with it to break it down. Graham probably knows more about this in terms of there's different fungus and stuff that people work with to actually break down and pull out metals and different things. So that's another project that we'll be looking at, and we've got several years of basically, once we've got it stored in the geotubes that's dewatered, we've got a number of years that we can work on that project and figure out. I mean, sometimes they're used in forestry applications. Sometimes they're used to reclaim old mine sites. There's different applications depending on the location, proximity to water sources. Like there's just, it's a very complex science, and this gives us some time to look into that and figure out where it's going to go.
Thank you.
Further to that, will there be public consultation involved in that process?
It's going to depend on the project itself. So it would depend on whether or not we are looking at any local types of applications, whether or not we are looking at potentially opening up for residential purchase. It really does depend on the quality of the biosolids and what we can do with it and what the end result is. And then, so that's quite a few years off in terms of planning.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor to receive the reports? Anyone opposed? So carried. Moving on to item 7, there's nothing in 6. Proposed bylaws for discussion. Bylaw 2041-2018, Revenue Anticipation Borrowing Bylaw. From Chief Financial Officer, the recommendation is that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Council gives the first 3 readings to Bylaw 2041-2018 Revenue Anticipation Borrowing Bylaw at the October 30th, 2017 regular meeting. Mover, please. Councilor Thompson. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? So carried. Information items, memo process for council, corporate services. Okay, number 8A, memo processes for council minutes. Corporate services, recommendation is Committee of the Whole receives a memorandum regarding the processes for council minutes for information and discussion. Mover, please. Councillor Thompson. All those in favor?
Discussion?
No discussion on that? Okay, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is an excellent article. Thank you very much. I, some years ago, attended, when I was on the Board of Credit Union, actually, and we invited the members of council of the day to a seminar, a full-day workshop with Elimina there. And I think this would be an excellent opportunity. We could suggest to our AKBLG that they bring him in for a workshop, because it's certainly, things have changed over the years, and I fully support what you're recommending.
Councillor Tripp, I'd like to hear the...
Oh, sure. Let's hear the presentation first.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's no real presentation. Like, I just wanted to say I was at a corporate officers conference here just last week as well in Victoria, and the discussion came up, and I chatted with Tracy Butler from Castlegar. She's the corporate officer over there. And at the end of the day, they've been running this now for 4 years like this, and the board loves it. It simplifies the process. Their staff likes it because there's no who said what, which person motioned, which seconded. There's no confusion anymore. So it really sped up their process in that way. I've also checked with the regional district in Central Kootenay, which is out in Nelson. They don't have their names listed as well either anymore for years already.
So that's the basic content of this memorandum, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to figure out other ways to be more efficient, right, and to streamline processes. So the software was one piece that we're changing right now, and this was something else that came up already 6 months ago, and I just tried to do my research and try to make sure that this isn't just one person's idea out there. And no, it's good. It looks positive from what I hear from the other municipalities. So it's up to council, obviously, to make that call.
Yeah, well, we're not voting on it today, so
Yeah.
it's just receiving for the memorandum.
Yeah.
Councillor Butler, then Councillor Tripp, then the lady in front.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, when I first saw that, that was the first thing that came to my mind is poor Daniel. I always has a hard time figuring out who seconded it, and I think a lot of that falls back on our shoulders as council to be more efficient in our meetings so that we are clear, so that the minute taker can record that. On the other hand, I really don't support this division. Sorry, Daniel. I know it would make it easier, and I think we could make it easier in another way, because by putting forward who makes a motion, especially, it gives accountability and transparency to the public and to the voters to know what each council member is supporting, what drivers they're bringing to council, and without the public knowing as individuals where we stand on certain issues, I think it really does a detriment to the voters, especially with the upcoming election, to know what each individual member of council stands for. And yes, as we collaborate and we talk about things as a group, absolutely, your minds can be changed on a motion, and they do need to be open to hear discussion from other members of council. But it is important on some initiatives that councillors bring forward that they be heard in the community and that the community know where they stand.
Councillor Tripp and Councillor Crog, I was going to probably make the same statement as Councillor Crog, but we'll let him elaborate after Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Conrad. And yeah, I guess when I saw this, the thing that I wondered about was, if someone brings a motion forward that they are passionate about, and it's maybe something that they've been working on, and they were really wanting their name to be attached to that motion for whatever reason, would it be possible if a councillor were to ask, like if the general rule was to not have anybody, not have who motioned and who seconded, if the councillor were to say, I'd like it noted that I made this motion, that could be, like, that might be one way forward with doing it. If you did want your name attached to a motion, you could ask for it, and then the normal rule would be nothing, but if you ask for it, then it could be. And then the other question I was wondering about was, does the UBCM have any kind of a policy for municipalities, or I know you've said that there are a few municipalities that have done it, but did you check with them, and do they have any further information that they could supply?
Yeah. So to the first question, through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, I would say that would be the right way to go about if somebody is really, like, if you bring up a motion that you would like to have at the AKBLG or something important that you're passionate, to have a note in the minutes, right? The minutes portion, not in the resolution section necessarily, because once it's moved and seconded, it becomes a motion of council as a whole, and it's council's motion to go forward. And a lot of people just second it or move it to bring it up for discussion in the first place. At the end, it doesn't. The onus is not on you yourself. Like I've heard stories where people's cars got damaged because their name was a seconder to a motion. So I'm actually more looking at this as a protection of council, as you as an individual person, to not have your name identified in potential controversial motions that are out there. If you still want to be opposed to it, by all means, be opposed to it and have your name recorded. That's what that is for, right? But the motion itself becomes a motion of council as a whole. And even when you bring a motion back to the table, it doesn't, it's, again, the motion is of council that comes back to the table for discussion. So that's that part. Now, what was the second part? Yes, right, I got it.
Yeah. And so I'm getting from that you could, that if a councillor did ask that it be noted that they were the one, that could be put in the minutes.
Yeah.
And then the second question was, did the UBCM, did you know if the UBCM had any?
So as per the article that I attached from Mr. Mina there, and he mentions Robert's Rules of Order basically speaks to that the name should be listed. It's not a must, right? And over the years, a lot of municipalities are moving away from this to a lot of the corporate offices that haven't done it yet. they're working on introducing it with the next council go around. It does depersonalize the motion and makes it as a collective thing, and it just makes it a more politically view of council as a whole.
Maybe
versus
less volatile, politically less volatile.
like I say, cars getting smashed, I'm not up for, I would like to protect every member of council from that ever happening. So if that's a choice that we can do, that would be perfect.
But just to mention that fact that the car getting smashed, the car can still get smashed because if you vote for it or against it, that's going to be your main foothold right there where you're going to be identified.
But in those stories, it was because somebody seconded a motion.
Yeah,
it was a building strata building meeting or so, but Mr. Mina was one of the ones that attended a workshop there and introduced them to this format because of these things he was brought in.
Councillor Krog and then Kate.
Okay, I totally support the removal. The message from Eli Mina, he is the expert on this, period, right? When it comes to political and the law and everything, so he is there. We've had people not second a motion because they thought, oh, if I second it, then I have to vote for it and stuff. All the information comes forward. It's council had this motion, this person objected to it, the rest agreed. You don't need your name to be on anything. I've sat here and I've watched massive grandstanding over the years. Like right now, I could make a motion to spend $5 million to build a 24-hour homeless shelter. I could do that, and guess what? It would get...
You have to bring forward a notice of motion according to our policy.
No, no. But anyways, yeah, and so I could, and I could put in the notice of motion, and then it gets voted down. But, oh, I was the one that tried to solve the homeless problem, but nobody wanted to. So that's where the political, like everybody says politicians, right? And politics. We're people. We are not jockeying for positions, especially at election time. It's hilarious, the things that I've seen at this table. By making it business-oriented, period, I don't care who brings a motion forward. You either vote for it or you don't vote for it, and that shows on the thing. So we shouldn't have our names on stuff, right?
I don't care.
Unless you're running a personal agenda and you want your name on something. Okay, sorry. It's true.
Do I need this?
Yeah.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Drexler. You know, being a member of the media, I will always err on the side of more detail rather than less. Are there any concerns by staff or council that this will make the process of government, which is already pretty opaque for the average person if you don't attend these meetings and sit here and learn Robert's rules, is there any concern that this will further opaque that process? That's not the right way to put it, but further make it less transparent?
To you, Mr. Mayor, I actually believe this will make it more transparent because it's the view of council as a whole is the important one. The mover, let's say Councillor Thompson makes a motion, moves it, and Councillor Ross seconds it. Okay, now it's a motion of council. Like you in the Gazette, you don't print necessarily who moved and who seconded. You print at the end who voted on the motions. If there's any FOI requests coming in, the less names that are in the minutes, the better, because now you need to strike possibly all sorts of, it just makes it a cleaner solution on that end as well. It makes it transparent that this is the wish of council to make that resolution. That is ultimately the goal here, that is trying to be performed as the business of the city, not as the individual person, not as the individual councillor.
I'll follow up if I may then. So if I were to, let's say that we're at this meeting right now, or at council tonight, that's especially important, and I get confused on who made that motion and who seconded that motion. for argument's sake, if that's still something I wanted recorded in the newspaper, would I be able to then call you and ask for that? Because
no, we wouldn't.
you wouldn't release that at this point.
We wouldn't record that anymore. Like that, it's the
Who voted for and who voted against.
Just to weigh in quickly on that, because what you just mentioned, to weigh in quickly on this, how minute this issue is as far as I'm concerned, is because of the fact, Committee of the Whole, you don't even need a seconder, to give you an example. So, as per Robert's rules. So, I mean, there you go. So you don't need a seconder, right? What's the difference? Councillor Butler. Oh, sorry, yeah, follow up again.
Just a clarification. So like typically the process, if I want to know who made a motion, I'll have it down in my notes that, you know, so-and-so made the motion on the water meter issue. But before I go to print, I will sometimes call Daniel or a member of staff and ask, just to make sure before this goes to the paper, because we don't want any mistakes, do you have it recorded that so-and-so made this motion? And he will say, it's not official in the minutes, but yes, that lines up with my perception as well. So
yeah, like, but the way it would be recorded is if there was a mover and there was a seconder. So moved, yes; seconded, yes; and carried, defeated, or anything. That'll be the official minutes.
No names.
If council chooses to do so.
Okay.
Possibly the backup could be Mr. Johnson's video, but this is part of the process that we're trying to streamline, because a lot of our work at the end is exactly that. Well, verifying who did what. Well, doesn't matter.
So where does the element of privacy come in then? Like if we have video recordings, that issue of not naming the mover and the seconder is actually an absolute.
The way I look at it, the business of the city is going to be here another 100 years. Like if somebody in 100 years wants to look at why was this decision made to build this $5 million complex that Mr. Krog was talking about, why was it made? It matters of the process, why it was made, and the resolution that the city as a whole, as the business of the city did at that point. It doesn't matter whose name was there.
The resolution is the element of importance, obviously, that voted on.
It's the business of the city that the city voted on.
Councillor Krog, then Councillor.
I was next, actually. You put me in line.
Okay, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, because I was going to ask a question.
Yeah, that concerns me, that statement, where's the element of privacy? This is an open public meeting, and the constituents have every right to know who made a motion. When somebody out there goes, whose harebrained idea was that? We need to be accountable to the people in the public. And I'm also disappointed because members of this council have sat here and said that they don't want the individual comments being recorded in the minutes either. So now not only do we not have the comments of why and how and the discussion that some councillors don't want included, now you also don't want included, we may as well not even, we're going to not even keep minutes here pretty soon. I mean, how is the public supposed to know what happened at these meetings if they're not watching on TV? They'll have no idea. And then we can have the argument, well, there was no seconder on that motion. And well, someone can say, well, I didn't second it. Well, how are you going to prove who seconded it? Maybe we didn't. A lot of times we have a discussion and we don't get a seconder. We don't make an actual official motion. And if there's no one to be accountable for that, things can get slipped through really easily. And I don't like that lack of accountability to the public.
Councillor Krog,
okay, I don't
be cutting back on this.
One slight comment. I don't sit at this table to slip through things. That's one. The other one is, you can make the motion, I can second the motion, press is sitting there, there's a camera. Once the decision is made, you end up with, example is if you want to use the words transparency and accountability a lot, and when you look at the decision of council, if you don't, the question, what the harebrained scheme, who came up with that harebrained idea? Well, guess what? It got defeated. Or I voted against it because I thought it was a harebrained idea.
And if it was a harebrained idea and you passed it, then you're all responsible.
Yeah, it's the council, it's not, you're not.
Council, I think we're discussing this overboard because the actual motion is going to be presented at the 30th where we can dissect it to its fullest degree. All we're doing here in this first motion is receiving the memorandum. Everybody knows now what it's about. And I think we'll end this conversation. Otherwise, we will be here all afternoon.
We're members of a team.
We're not making a decision.
We're not making a decision on this one. So all those in favor of receiving the memorandum so that everybody now knows what the memorandum is about, and we will discuss it at October 30th. So for receipt, all those in favor? Anyone opposed?
Better put my name down as opposed. Quick to get it recorded.
All right, following up on the next one is the Committee of the Whole. Thank you, Mr. Drexler.
Thank you.
The Committee of the Whole recommends the Council to support the staff recommendations to omit Councilor's name that moves and seconds the resolution at the October 30th regular meeting. Mover, please. Councilor Thompson. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Councilor Butler. The motion is carried. Going on to item 8B, Memo 2017 Campground Summary, Deputy Manager of Operations and Sustainability, Recommendation Committee of the Whole receives for information the memorandum regarding the 2017 Campground Summary. Again, Council, again. Mover, please. Councilor Ross. We are just receiving the information. All those in favor to receive. Anyone opposed? So carried. Memo 2017 Community Satisfaction Survey, October. Imagine, from the Deputy Manager of Operations and Sustainability. Committee of the Whole receives the memorandum regarding the Community Satisfaction Survey for information and discussion. Mover, please. Councilor Ross. This one we do have an opening for discussion, so entertain a bit. Councilor Tripp.
Thank you, Mayor Conrad. Yeah, this is a really good survey, and I really like the way that you've pulled out some of the real pertinent details here, and it's very helpful. And so thank you very much for doing that and for presenting it to us in this fashion. And I just really hope that some of the recommendations that have come forward here are acted on over the next year, couple of years, and that they'll make a difference. Because so often, surveys come and go, and then the recommendations in them don't really get implemented in any way. So that would be a really good thing for you to keep on top of. Did you have any comments that you wanted to maybe point out to us specifically that you think are of note for us?
My apologies, by the way, if you'd like to speak on item B and C as in foothold on the memorandum, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have any comments in particular. The campground memo, I believe, speaks for itself. It's just a summary of operations. On the action plan with the survey, my intent in presenting it was to answer any questions that might come from council and to make sure that the council had a look at it as part of the meeting. It is a draft action plan, so we'll be coming forward with a more fleshed out version at another meeting.
Councilor Crog.
Yeah, just, I really appreciate the information. The only thing that I found was weird, I guess. It's a community satisfaction survey, and we're asking for information that's not pertinent to our operation as a municipality. Some questions such as, do you feel safe, are 100% for sure, but asking somebody about their personal relationships, how are they doing in life, what are they achieving, what's their sense of spirituality, and even health, are just weird to me, like how that affects, like each individual has their own issues that they go through. It's just like, we're trying to figure out an action plan to help our community, but if there was something specific, so rather than your personal relationships, that could need a marriage counselor for all I know. But how do we get something concrete to fix? I can't go as a council into somebody's house and talk to them and stuff. So there's some really awesome questions on there, and the results are good. I looked at some of them and I went, okay, that's kind of weird. Why do we even want to know that, and what can we do about it? So that was my one comment.
Now they expect us to do something about about it since we asked.
I'll be over there. Go ahead, Kate. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the Deputy Manager. Two things. I see that this is still a draft services action plan. So my first question is, will this be coming back to Council for approval, or does Council have to adopt this plan? And then the second part of my question is, what is the relationship between this plan and, say, the official community plan? Like, how do those, what's the difference essentially?
Mr. Mayor, this has, it may inform some policy direction of the official community plan, but it is not a plan that is guided by the community charter or local government act or anything like that, as the official community plan is. In terms of it coming back in front of council, that would be up to council if they wish to see and approve the action plan, or if they just wish to see what comes of it, or what have you. So it's an optional thing. The idea with the action plan was to not just leave the opinions on the table, but to make it a little bit more concrete moving forward. And so as a result, and in conjunction with the other 3 memos that have come before council this year, the action plan that's in draft right now has to do with services, because that is the business of the city, and those are some things that we can actually do something about.
Councilor Butler.
Good, thanks. Through you to staff. Under communications, I like some of your ideas that you have in there, and I was wondering if we ever do, or if you've considered setting up booths at some of our public events that we have at the farmers market, like going to where the people are to engage them rather than wanting them to come to us to our open houses that we host. Is that something that we've done or could do?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is something that we discussed last year in the fall in terms of having some pop-up town halls as a concept. That has not been implemented yet, but staff agreed that doing more outreach in less formal capacity would be a good thing.
Okay, so unless there's anything else, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? So carried. No correspondence, no late items, reports, questioning from members of council, nothing there. Question period from the public. Do we have any one wanting to ask questions? Sir, go ahead.
Yeah, I got 1 or 2 quick. As you know, I've been complaining about my water bill for some time.
Please identify yourself, sir.
What's that?
Can you identify yourself for the record, please? Your name?
Fred Scott.
Okay, thank you. I know who you are, but you got to do it for the record.
A couple of years ago, the CAO of the city pulled me aside and told me he was going to recommend to council that they do something about our water bill because we've used very little water. Now, when I read in the paper that he was leaving, I emailed him and asked him if he ever made that recommendation to council and what council's reaction was. The response I got back was he thanked me for my email and said he forwarded my request to David Reed, which I don't know how David Reed could answer that question. So I would like to ask the members of council, did he ever make that recommendation to council?
The exact recommendation was?
To do something about our water bill.
I have no recollection of that, and seeing as Mr. Allen is not present, I would almost put that under the realm of
Point of
hearsay.
order, Mr. Mayor. Is this not protected under privacy through the Ombudsman Act?
Yes, exactly. So there's
What do you mean?
There's no one to attest for it.
I would love to discuss with you, but under the Ombudsman Act, anything that's gone to the Ombudsman, I'm pretty sure we're not.
I didn't even mention the ombudsman. I talked about our water bill.
But this whole issue is under that.
Okay, well,
discussion.
a second question then. Have the members of council read the ombudsman's report? Is that a hard question?
I don't think we can discuss it. That's why
You
I
can't discuss what, even if you read it?
It's protected under the Act, as far as I'm aware. I mean, you have to ask Garcia. I'd love to discuss it with you, but I don't want to get taken to court. You know how that goes.
What? I've talked to the ombudsman. You can discuss it with me, but I guess not in front, not in public.
No, not in public forum, sir.
So you
are CAO?
Under the Ombudsman Act, I'm an ombudsperson.
It's first.
I couldn't hear what you
It's not
said.
something that normally gets taken to council.
I'm sorry.
It's not
I'm
normally
deaf.
taken to council. Council doesn't normally are privy to that because of the protection of the act. We can advise that there is a complaint. Now, I'm not quite sure, I can't speak to exactly what this one is. I haven't seen that there is anything active right now.
So you're saying council doesn't get to see the report?
Though, Your Worship, it is something that is operational, that stays. It's the same as an FOI request. The applicants are always protected, and this is the same format, and that we don't usually take those things to council.
Yeah, because it's operational, it's not political at that point. Until it becomes so, then it's a different story.
It certainly is a shame, because if what the city told me on Budsman was truthful, I would not be standing here today.
Unfortunately, we can't discuss it, sir.
What a waste of time.
You have any other questions? Gentleman in the back.
I'll try and keep it brief. I know you didn't want to talk too much more on the item about council minutes, but that's what I'm going to opine on here.
On the what, sorry?
Council minutes item. Les Johnson, GFTV, taxpayer. Now, is my name going to appear in the minutes? And in the future, when this goes in, if it goes in, will the people who present questions from the gallery, in a sense, bringing a topic to council, which is not that different from making a motion, will my name go in there? Will his name, Fred's name, go in there? I'm just pointing that out because what I see is developing over time here is some kind of weird, for the public, hard to understand, schizophrenic personality of local government, where on the one hand you want to be transparent, but on the other hand you have to address rules which keep transparency from being completely transparent, because you have to protect people's privacy. You don't want to have people's cars keyed because they happen to make the motion that people don't like. I get that to some degree, but as a body, I can see that. But come election time, you guys are all in the race. You're in the competition. You're politicians. Wouldn't you want people to know when you grandstanded and when you championed some motion or not? You don't have to answer that because you're politicians. I don't want to take the rest of the day.
Hopefully, Mr. Johnson, hopefully the grandstanding is not what's going to get you elected.
I understand what you're saying, but you just brought in a rule earlier this year that says you have to be nice to each other, which personally I don't think is a really good thing for a group that makes its living off of what it says and championing things. That's one thing. But on the other hand, you are a body, but you're also individuals. Some of you look at this as almost a career, and others it's just a service to your community. I get that. But how do you stand out from the pack if you have to be hidden behind a veil of secrecy? Unless people, of course, come and watch my videos, because I'll have the only place where they can actually find out who said what and when, in what order. Maybe if there was a bigger city here, I might try and sell advertising come election time. But I
On
don't
that
think
last
I'd make a
comment
buck.
you made, you're going in the direction of personal agenda, and no councillor should ever act on personal agenda when decisions are made by the whole as council, because council is a whole. And this is when you made that statement, like, well, maybe they'd want to find out who the one was, because they have their own opinions. That's personal agenda.
Yeah, but their agenda may
should
not
be in
their-
office.
Sorry if we're talking over you, but their agenda may not be their own personal agenda. They may be the agenda for the constituency that they're representing in the community, whether or not other people like it. But-
It's not what you say, it's how you say it sometimes. Go ahead, Councillor Butler, and then Councillor Crowe.
I'm just curious, Mr. Johnson, how do you think this policy would go over in Ottawa if we didn't have any accountability from our national representatives on who was bringing forward a motion before Parliament?
I imagine you'd see people saying, what's next? They are going to wait burkers when they vote?
That's what CPAC is for.
Councillor Crowe.
Okay, my comment about it stops grandstanding. We're here at this table to do a job, not campaign, period. When it comes time for an election, anybody that's running can campaign their butt off. They can go to public forums, they can go door to door, but it's not done here for personal,
Political game.
yeah, personal political gain, right?
Not in
So
these chambers.
it's
I think you're
dumb.
missing my point.
I'm not.
That's not what I'm saying.
Sorry,
Anyway.
I'm not dealing with your point. I'm dealing with Mr. Johnston's point.
Okay, October 30th, council, we will deal with this.
Yeah, yeah. So
Discussion's
it's
closed.
I
Yeah,
agree, I
it
agree with you
is
as a taxpayer,
transparent.
I do, but as an observer, grandstanding happens here on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Not as much as before, but
Yeah, perception.
the nature of the
Perception.
beast, you guys.
Perception's a very big word, Mr. Johnson.
And the closer to the election, the worse it gets.
Exactly.
All right, having said that, unless there's anything, are we going to be talking about this topic again?
No.
Because I will not address any more comments on that topic, sorry, from the gallery, unless it's something different. Because we have another meeting going, and everybody will get a chance to put their input again at the October 30th meeting. So,
Is there a resolution for it?
it's coming.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 13, which is the Chief Administrative Officer in-camera. Immediately following the Committee of the Whole meeting, Council will hold an in-camera meeting. May I have a motion? Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? So carried.
Yes.
Motion, may I have a motion to adjourn? Sorry. Councillor Tripp. All those in favor? Anyone opposed?